Oh, what happened?
You said a bad word.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Who said a what?
You said a bad word.
I don't believe it.
Yes, you did.
I don't believe it.
Yes.
Don't
you
repeat it,
did.
though.
I am.
No, don't you say it. That's a bad word.
I'm just joking.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to
No,
it.
no, Dad, don't start without Oliver.
Oh, shh! He's a special guest. We weren't supposed to say it out loud.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone.
All right, so welcome to another fantastic, amazing, great show we have for you guys in store here today. It's Tuesday. I'm back from Europe. Clean sweep out there for Team USA. High five for that, huh? That's right. And it's been all around a great week. Travel day yesterday was pretty good, and we've got an awesome show for you guys today. We got a snitch. And yeah, we're gonna have we got a couple of great guests on the show today, and I mean a handful.
Do you want me to bring him when it's time?
Yeah. You want to go get him right now?
Yeah.
Okay. It's almost time, but don't tell everybody who it is. Are you excited for who it is?
Yeah.
All right. As we go and grab one of our first guests for the day today, I think you guys know it because obviously it's written on It's written on the banner. We want to take this time to give everybody a big thank you to all of you who are watching right now, who you all have tuned in every Tuesday. Kyle, great job last week on the show.
Thank you.
Dude, you killed it. I think Kyle does a better job than I do. I think he should be just talking, doing all this stuff.
We just need to do one show where I do all this and you get to just sit.
Just sit right here.
In my spot.
What do you think? Is it weird if we're sitting?
Are you ready?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Whenever you're ready, sweetie.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Bum, ba, da, bum, 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 bum. Hold on. Air horn. Incoming.
Thank you.
Oh,
We're
you got
here.
your sunglasses.
Yes, thank you, Sloan. Thank you for my new sunglasses.
It's some birthday sunnies here.
Which one? The orange? These are the new.
Yeah, those are him, right?
Yeah, those are great.
I gift him.
Those are him.
She gifted them.
Oh,
Whoa.
let me fix the camera here a little
Everything's
bit.
in HD.
Everything's
Where'd
in
Sloan
HD.
go?
I'm right here.
Oh.
Let's move the camera a little bit this way, so we get Kyle in there. Ha, there we go.
Oh, I didn't get any.
Hey, don't shout into the microphone
Oh, I didn't. I don't know if there is any.
because it's loud. What are you looking for?
It's cervezas. We
Oh
didn't
no,
stop for
I
any.
don't know if there's any in the thing. I didn't get it. I've been gone for a while.
I can check for you.
So as I was saying, thank you guys all for tuning in every week. It means a lot that you guys are all watching this on a regular basis. Also, additionally, big thanks to all of our show supporters and sponsors. We got them listed down there below, Gen X and Arfon. We've got a pod deal going on right now for those of you guys who are going to Chicago. I'm going to make it really big here. Oh, it's really small. I'm going to make it really big here for a second. Pre-order your pods by... Is that today? Pre-order them today to make sure you guys get them at the Windy City Open, gxgsports.com. 50 pods and a mesh bag for $140. And if you guys are going to be out there in Chicago, they will have some pods on hand. So make sure you guys go ahead and sign up for that. Let me make it right here, put it here. Just to add to the background there. Big thanks to the NECTR boys keeping us. I was zapped out there in Europe. I know a bunch of the other guys. I gave them to a bunch of the guys out there. I feel like that might have had a little hand in the USA victory there by keeping us awake. I had to play. I played every single point for the Masters guys. On the first day, I played every single point for the men's team also, and it was like an 8 a.m. first match, 5 or 6 p.m. last match. It's a long day. Yeah, it was a long day. You know, you only drink too many coffees. Come on up here. There we go.
And then you didn't play. You coach.
And then I coached the last one. Can you move the light back a little bit?
I will.
It's super bright. I don't know if I trust you moving that thing. Right. It's like super bright in here, huh?
Especially with these glasses.
Yeah.
I mean, I could shut this part.
Let's do auto exposure. Oh, here we go. I got it.
Yeah.
Look at that. I can adjust the exposure. Maybe a little bit. That wasn't the move. Now we're in. There we go. Whatever. We'll just roll with it.
Well, I mean, I think it was because I turned these
But doesn't
off.
it look really bright? Now we're a little cool. Anyway, well, it's a work in progress.
It does look a little bright.
It's a work in progress. And then also big thanks to Junior and Gina over at bfpgear.com. We've got one set of those Dynasty frames. You see those Dynasty frames? The old school Dynasty frames? Got one more set of those to give away on the show today, and we're also going to give away a pair of those JT goggles there on the USA body right there.
Ooh.
Yeah, so if you maybe you could win 2 of them. If you win both, you get to like put them together, and yeah, maybe that back-to-back Dynasty hat. We got a lot of stuff. It's literally an infinite amount of freebies.
Put them on.
Pretty much you watch and you get something.
That's it. We're trying. Yeah, that's with the amount of viewers that we have, it's pretty much a 1-for-1.
Put these on, and you get something.
Put those on. Now that's the look right there. Do you think that's the look?
How do you even do that?
Because I got the magic glasses you gave me.
So, Oliver, World Tour, where you at? What's happening?
We just finished Alabama.
Uh-huh.
Prime Paintball. Field of Dreams, if you've ever been there. Really nice. I recommend going. I recommend Dynasty actually should practice there at one point, too.
Is there a pro team out of there?
I mean, I think the Hurricanes are kind of close.
Okay.
I know Mike Bianca's like from there, so you could go practice them there. But it's kind of cool. It's kind of that like dream I think we always had of like having a private field that's like really clean and maintained well, and then you could just wake up in the morning and start drilling.
Yeah.
And your buddies come and dry. Kind of like the ranch. Remember the ranch?
I never got to go, but I remember what it looked like.
The ranch was nice.
It was like it's just this idea of having a field that you can play at that's yours. That's just amazing, and they just keep it so well kept. It's incredible.
The picture was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay.
Oh no!
What happened?
The door! The garage!
Oh, it's okay. It's just to let a little air in here, and then we can let it... Yeah, it's good.
Maybe a bird
We're
hit
okay.
it.
Okay. I think a bird ran into it. Go see if there's any birds over there. Okay.
How?
So where's what's next? So on the next
The
stop?
next is SC Village. So
Okay.
last year SC Village SoCal players. Not many of you guys showed up.
You did it?
No.
No way, there's a rat.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. Like, what do you think? What do you think it is? Like, so first of all, where do people go to sign up? You have to go
SC Village, scvillage.com has
Okay.
has the Joust spots. Now Todd Martinez is doing a little bit of a better job of kind of inviting guys to play the duel, and he's been even hosting kind of like qualifiers. So the people show up, they practice, and then the winner got like a headband, and then you get an invite to the duel. So
Okay.
like you kind of got to show up this year and play and kind of make yourself seen. And yeah, I mean, I think kind of to answer your question that where you were going is why is SC Village not as strong as it used to be? Maybe is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I guess to a certain extent, yeah. So now, just to reiterate, because I know we talked about it last time you were on here. So there's 2 different formats. One is a free for all, everybody can come. That's on the Saturday, I think.
That's Joust, yeah.
That's
So
the
you're
Joust.
gonna. So
I'm the
Ryan
general.
Greenspan is gonna be a general, and he got. I think you asked AI, so he's gonna be general of Glorious.
Yeah, AI said I was more glorious than
Yeah, he's more
magnificent.
glorious than magnificent, and then Joust is gonna be the general of the magnificent. So it's also the same weekend as the Decay of Nations.
Yep.
So there's gonna be a lot of people out there,
Yeah.
and
that'll be killer.
yeah, and then there's gonna be a lot of Dynasty Club members, right?
Yep, we got the Champs Club.
So I think that this is really a great opportunity for Champs Club members to actually be able to play with Ryan Greenspan and Yosh Rao and other Dynasty guys, and have that experience, because the Joust, which is really cool about the Joust, which I love, is like you're gonna be in the pits with pro players, playing on the same team. So like that's kind of just a rare thing, right? Like
Right.
you'd have to get on Dynasty to get that experience. Here you're gonna get those experiences,
Right.
Last year Alex FRAIGE played, Blake Yarber played. So there's people that actually can say that Blake Yarber and Alex FRAIGE are my teammates. So that's kind
Yeah.
of cool about the Joust.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. And just to reiterate, if you're a Dynasty Champions Club member or if you're an All Access member, you get half off registration for Decay of Nations and 25% off paint. So if you're watching this and you even want to just go over to dynastypaintball.com and sign up for the All Access Club, because the Champs Club is sold out right now. But sign up for the All Access Club, and we'll give you the details on how to sign up for Decay of Nations at 50% off your registration, and then 25% off paint. And then while we're there, we're gonna have like a cool little setup, and we'll be jumping over between the two events.
So the Joust is all
it's
day
all
Saturday.
active. Yeah,
it's not
it's
all day actually.
Right.
The Joust is quite light. It's only there's gonna be a 10 a.m. Joust, and I think there's like a 1 o'clock Joust.
And you can sign up straight for that. Just that one you can sign up for.
Yeah, so that's only on Saturday, and then the duel is kind of invitation. So this is like one thing to kind of answer. I think where you're going with this, it's like when we were young, you go to a field. You should, if you're at least a player that wants to be kind of recognized and start to, be seen and be, kind of known as an up and coming player. Like you need to become relevant, and what that means is like showing up to Dynasty events or clinics or when there's other pros or other people there so that they know you. And you want Todd Martinez to essentially know you by name, and say, hey, okay, this guy's here all the time. This guy's grinding. He's putting in time and effort. And when the duel shows up, it's like, hey, he goes right to you and asks you to come, So a lot of players stay in ambiguity of like not really being seen and afraid of pros, but these are kind of this is how you get better and you become more relevant,
Yeah, and that's a really important factor and something that we talk about a lot. Like obviously the BKI program is a really important one. Going to the summer camps, going to the combines, it's kind of meeting all those players, and that's a great way to kind of start getting your foot in the door. But but networking is what it is.
Networking,
it's networking.
Yeah, I mean, like think about when we first started playing. You had to show up, and you were kind of just a kid, and then you show up more, and then people get your name, and then all of a sudden now you're working the hot dog stand. I was working as a ref. Now you become part of the paintball community in that area. And then, all of a sudden, Eric Crandall's like, hey, there's a tournament in San Diego. Yep. You guys want to play on this team? Because he knew us, and that was our breakthrough moment of being able, moving into tournament paintball, And so if you want to become relevant in the scene, you got to kind of be seen, and you got to show up, and you got to, get people to know who you are, and that's the networking factor, I mean, even the guys who are all duelers now, who are heavy duelers, who are really into it, like, I vouch for them.
Yeah.
Like one of the guys.
And that's important, right? That's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, like one of the guys, Avery, who was just in Alabama, he had to play, who won last year in Arizona. He came out to try to win. He actually had to match up against another winner, Matthew Smith or Smitty. But I get to hang out with Avery, and I've seen Avery, and he's grown in such a year. In a year, he's grown a significant amount, and he was like kind of really telling me, hey, I want to be pro. And I'm like, well, I can vouch for you, bro. I see you. I see your value. I see, you're trying hard. And I was like, I'm going to make a call to some pro teams to see if you can get a tryout, So that's how you become relevant, and that's how you get your foot in the door, and that's how you get seen and get noticed and then get picked up. And that's just the system.
That's it. Cool. And Orlando says, and Orlando's out there all the time as well. Omega should have some guys at the Joust and the duel.
Yes. Thank you.
And so how many players are going to be invited to the duel?
Only 16. There's always only 16.
Okay, there's only ever 16.
Yeah.
And that's for sure going to be filled up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's filled up yet. I think Todd's got like 9 guys.
Okay.
And then, Avery didn't do as good as he would have liked to do, so I think he'll probably return to the SC one. So he's going to, there'll be a few shoe-ins, Avery deserves a spot. He won a duel last year. He played in the grand finale, So anyways, there's a few people that are going to get, in personal invitations, from outside. I think Todd Boyer is going to be one of them. And then, for the most part, I think Todd's got a few more events at SC Village, in the next couple weekends. So if you're interested and want to play in the duel, go and become seen and get seen and meet Todd Martinez and, show up. And that's how you do it.
Yeah.
I might show up there too if I got the days off.
Yeah, great. I would love to have you, And so that everybody knows, Kyle was the first one who played in the first Joust and first duel that I ever did at Camp Pendleton a beta testing, and he loved it, and that was already like 2-3
it was
years,
a good long match
ago,
too. I think we did 17 19 points or something.
No, I mean you would have gone to race to 10, but so he probably got like 5 on you, and then you beat him at 10. And had a few trades, so you'll get like a good workout.
Yeah, you play a lot of points.
Yeah, so that's the system, And so anybody who's interested, go to SC Village, and there's also going to be one more after SC Village, which is going to be at Arturo's Field.
Okay.
I can't say the name.
Quitereto. get the tether.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Arturo. Arturo
Yes.
got engaged.
Yes.
Hey.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, dude. He kept it tight-lipped.
And do you see how he did it with the mariachi?
Dude, he had the mariachi band in Paris. He flew the entire mariachi band from Mexico City to Paris.
Really?
Wow.
No, I think they were already
I
out
was
there.
gonna say.
He just had the team do it.
He just had the
Nations
guys,
team?
the Nations Cup team, all dressed up. Yeah, that's a big congrats to Arturo. I mean, I saw him on Sunday. Like, we were hanging out on Sunday at the field, and he's like, "All right, see you later this week. We're going to Paris." He wasn't like, "I'm getting engaged tonight." Like,
Yeah,
he
he
didn't
didn't
say
tell anyone?
No. Camille's like, "I can't believe you wouldn't say anything." I'm like, "Well, what if he wasn't 100% sure yet?" You know, like,
Better just to do something sometimes than tell everybody.
You don't want to
and then,
tell everybody and then be
yeah.
like, "Oh, I went to do it, but I dropped the ring in the thing.
Yeah,
It's down the
yeah,
sewer somewhere.
yeah.
Or I tripped, or I got scared. I don't know. You just don't. You keep that stuff. You do it to you.
Right.
You do
Yeah.
you. You know.
Yes,
You do
yes,
it.
Yes. XL, he played in the Joust in Arizona. Are you gonna be in Mexico for the Joust?
Zool.
And maybe even SC Village?
And yeah, come on out to SC Village. Paul Stoller to be going. You should get Rodney's son out there. Duel.
Yeah. I mean, they
He's
just gotta apply.
Just gotta apply. Yeah.
I saw Maddie out there coaching Narcos this weekend.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
You didn't
good.
know?
No.
I thought you
He's-
guys maybe arranged
I
that.
arranged it to have him coach at the WCPPL,
Mm.
and he's like, "Dude, those guys could do some work. Like, I know what I can do to help them, and this, that, the other." And yeah,
So just
so he's
swooping in on you.
no, he's coaching the D3 line. He's coaching the D3 line. Just come on, Matt. I saw Maddie coaching
I was wondering because we were
yeah.
playing them. We were playing a little. Nothing to take away from those. And I was like, I swear, Narcos usually you're playing better than this, but they didn't have all the
guys.
I think.
All the guys. Okay. Yeah, I think it was probably the D3 team.
Yeah, I think so.
Who plays well, dude.
Yeah.
Ruben's been getting really good. We got the guy Jesse who actually just literally picked up on the Sunday afternoon. We were like, we have 6 guys. We need a guy, and they called him. He showed up and he just dominated too.
Yeah.
So we've got some plans for the final event that I'm not going to unveil just yet.
Some game plans already.
Some game plans already. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
wow.
blind layout, so I just made blind game plans.
Oh,
Makes
like
sense. And then all I do is I get one of those, what were those projector paper things, the clear ones? Remember projectors?
Yes.
They had like just the clear papers that they would write on the drama.
Yeah.
That stuff was next level. Kids won't even know what that stuff is
You
like.
should bring a projector out to the next event and
Yeah.
make your game plan.
So I know I basically am
roll
gonna
it
make
onto
a
the plane.
game plan on a projector paper, and then when the field layout comes out, I'm just gonna overlay it.
Oh, gotcha,
and so
gotcha.
and just it's like imagine
This
that.
is what you're doing.
Imagine
But
that.
what if you go to a spot that there's not a bunker?
Well, that's just the that's just what,
where do I go on this one?
Yeah. Even though Narcos is Spanish, that they don't talk like that.
Okay.
They're not actually from Mexico.
No,
Narcos.
okay.
They're from like
Same
San
thing for my
Bernardino
team.
or something like
Okay,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Most of all my guys. Like Chula Vista, San Isidro.
Wait, look at that one, huh?
Yeah.
These nuts?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Who made this one?
My buddy of mine.
Yeah, these
Dalton.
nuts. So, Oliver, before we get
Show 'em that one over there.
oh, this one's cool. This was a good one. This one's pretty sweet.
Ooh,
Tigers and dragons.
We don't have any more of the ones.
got all-
Hormesis Tiger ones too.
I've got yours. What's an Oasis Tiger wear?
Hormesis Tiger.
Oh no. I
Here we
did
go.
have it.
Who makes
and
this
then
one? Oh, that's the same.
I left them drying on the
Okay,
on the
that's
front
mine.
porch, and
Someone's
Camille
right there.
sold them all. Camille sold all my headbands.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That wasn't. You didn't ask her to do that.
No, I did not.
Because I saw her story, and then I saw the next story that was like, all this stuff is gone.
Yeah.
Check back next week. I got more shit to sell.
Yeah. I mean,
I thought you guys set that up.
No.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
put
plan.
those out there to dry. So,
Oh.
because I hand wash all my headbands, I realized this after I got the very, very first Hormesis headband, and I washed it and dried it and turned it into like a G-string on my forehead. and I was like, hey, these things shrinking like you're supposed to be a hand wash because I don't read the labels, the care instructions.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
cool,
yeah.
headband. So now I wash everything by hand.
These ones you can machine wash, right?
Denim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can dry a lot of our stuff too. I make sure to make like dummy proof.
I mean, I get it though. You know, like you want. I get it now.
I
It's
like
yeah.
to hand for at least at the minimum though is like hang dry it, lay it flat so it doesn't like buckle.
Yeah.
And so yeah. Anyway, I saw that also, and actually somebody sent to my thank you. I think it was Kevin. when he paid for it, he paid me on my Venmo, and that's when I saw it. I was like, "What's this for?" And then I saw Camille's story later because it said for the headband, and I was like, "Why didn't I sell a headband? I don't know what's going on." And then I saw Camille's story, and I was like, "Hey, don't sell those things. Those are supposed to come to France with me." I was drying them in the back porch. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was great, huh?
That is. You'll come back one day and all this stuff will be sold.
I know it. Yeah. And I think that's what she was kind of getting at. She's like, all right, well, there's plenty of stuff. See, she sees this office, the studio, as a big bunch of clutter, but I know exactly where everything is, and it's all placed perfectly. And it's great because we have like these little little Easter eggs everywhere. Like there's a Dynasty Champions Club gift somewhere hidden in right in here. And it's a good way because if everything was perfectly clean, then it's hard to hide stuff.
This is a studio.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if I need my pens, they're right here. If I need this old picture of me on a horse, it's right here. If I want to have that old picture of you and me, Oliver, I got it right back there. You know?
Yeah. You know, they
I
call
know
this
what it
art
is.
chaos.
Yeah. You know what they say?
Or no, they call it. What do they call
art
it?
chaos.
Art chaos.
No. There's a term for that. They think it's called art chaos. It's when the room is all a mess, but it's art.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I got the portal to Bali right there.
Yes,
and
that's
it's all
right.
it's all part of the plan.
all part of the
Everything's
plan.
exactly where it's supposed to be. Thank you. Yeah.
Nice.
If you need NECTR, it's right here in the dispenser. We've got straps. We've got goggle frames. We've
balance
got
cleats
this.
for you back
Dude, this
there.
is cool too. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming you made these things.
Yeah, those
This
are
is
nice,
the
huh?
new one,
Yeah.
dude.
I like how you're always
made those
gifting
in
those
Bali?
guys out for players of the
Yeah.
day. No, that's a Miko made that one.
This is a cool one, huh?
I like how you're giving those to player of the day and making the player of the day a thing because that's important.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. That's kind of. I think it's important, right?
Yeah.
It's such a cool thing that we used to do on the team. We still do it.
Yeah.
We still do it. And the player of the day gets to choose lunch.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I was doing that like a lot this
Control
weekend
chaos.
at the Joust. It's like when I started to just give feathers to guys who do like amazing things, like they get double aces or they get a 7-row streak, or they get a guy out there that they shouldn't have, that was way better than them. It's like you give them a little honorable mention, and then they grow from that. And I think that's like even. At the end of the day, when you're practicing for Dynasty, you're not trying to make player of the day, but you're trying to play good, and then that's like, hey.
Well, if you don't want to eat at a lousy restaurant, then you gotta
That's
you
right.
gotta
That's
really,
why I always
really
was
try
player
to
of the day.
get player of the day. Yeah, that's why you were always player of the day.
Did you ever win player of the day?
I only not very often.
No,
It's
okay.
I feel like the bar is set
It's a little
differently
rigged,
for
yeah.
different people.
It's a little
I-
bit rigged, yeah.
There's sometimes I need to get it.
Some guys.
It's Victor's player of the day now, and so the only person who gets it is whoever's playing in the snake, who had the very last point they played was good.
Right.
He doesn't. And if you play on the Dorito side, you're not getting POD.
Gotcha.
No one's getting Victor's player of the day.
Yeah.
Dude,
fair
Victor
enough.
sent me, shout out to Victor, he sent me a nice gift the other day.
Oh yeah.
Those little diffuser things.
Okay.
I was in Phoenix, I was like, dude, it smells so good in your house, and then he showed me them.
Oh cool.
He gave me one, and then I just randomly got in the mail 3 more.
I love that. And then also, I was just in Sloane's room. She's giving me a tour, and she was like, "Victor gave me this dress. It's cute."
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like,
that's
It
cute.
was all hung up. And
Yeah. Oh, she's so pumped right now. I gave her like a little doll last night. And I gave her a
Yeah.
little Paris
Yeah.
little thing. The doll was I wasn't sure, so I had to buy like a snow globe also.
Yeah. Double down.
Double down. You gotta get 2 gifts.
Yeah, especially being gone a week.
Gone a week. Yeah, she's not too stoked on that. I haven't told her that I'm leaving tomorrow also. Ooh.
Practice.
But I shook up the babies enough to completely throw everybody off of their sleep schedule that Camille has been working tirelessly for.
Yes. She's
the
got
last
them
week.
handled now.
She's got them handled.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just goes in
You
there.
should just never do it.
I think I should just go in there, play with them, just like you did,
Yeah.
You're like,
I've got the-
yeah, he's got slobber. Oliver's gonna come up with a parent's T-shirt.
Yeah, you just
Newborn
it's like
parent t-shirt?
You just rip this off right here, and then it's like,
Yeah, like-
a new shirt, and then it's like you just keep going through it, here, and you can just get baby drool. And
I like that.
It's like
Yeah, it's like the tear-offs.
it's like a tear off lens for your shirt.
I forgot to ask you, last week when I was setting up the show, Camille texted me, he's like, by the way, don't say Ryan's in Paris. So where do you say that you went?
I just work.
Oh.
So Sloane's first big. I mean, she's been to World Cup. She does
She's
those
been
things.
to Paris.
She's been to Paris, and she
Oh, so you're
loved
not
it.
allowed
But
to
that
go
was her
there without-
first. That was her first big trip that she really remembers. Like she loved Paris. She had such a good time. I mean, we woke up one morning and she was making her bed. Like, okay, guys, are we ready to go out for the day? And I mean, she's never to this day and before then she's never made her bed in the entire world ever. And she was like ready to rip. Like she's like, come on. She had such a good time out there.
Maybe you gotta
so
move to
couldn't.
Paris.
I couldn't tell. I'm not going to do that. I just feel like it's just not
It's
too
mighty
bad.
nice out
with
there.
her, with
her,
everybody.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But Blake was like, why don't you bring Sloane just out to What if you bring Sloan out to Paris? Or out to Chicago, because Sloan really wants to go to Chicago also. And I was like, I can't do that. But dude, if you come,
And I could just hang
you
out
could
there.
be our assistant, the assistant coach. You keep us
I'm
boosted.
expensive.
Well,
I don't think Dynasty
Hormesis
can
will
afford
pay.
me.
Hormesis will pay. I'll get Hormesis to pay.
Tiger wear.
I forgot. I should go back and find this clip. I forgot what happened. But Damien was holding this thing for the whole show, and then he accidentally he was like going like this, and he zapped himself. If any of you guys could go back and find what exactly time that was, so I could record that and put it on.
Yeah, and then make sure you subscribe to Damien's podcast called Fun.
Oh, he's in here,
Pusher.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's in here. Damien, is he? Maybe he's like in the house. You can come over, bud, if you want to. I don't know what you're up to.
He's
He just
making
sent me
a podcast.
Yeah,
Fudge Pusher.
because he's getting into competitive shooting.
Interesting.
I'm not
name.
totally sure what relevance that has exactly, but
Yeah, you might get a different
demographic.
demographic.
yeah, than guns. But I like him figuring things out for himself. I think that's an important part of growth as a human being. He just bought a new gun. It was a $5,000 pistol.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. Someone needs to like. You need like a, what is it called? Someone who has power of attorney over all of your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need all that stuff.
Or when you have a decision, just wait like 30 seconds.
No, it's
see if
longer
he's
for
still-
him. Send it to
an
in the
hour?
group chat, and we'll approve it or disapprove it. So let's talk a little bit more. What's been your favorite duel stop?
It's a good question. I mean, Greensboro, North Carolina was just amazing because I feel like the community is so strong there.
Oh,
Like,
really?
The paintball community.
Oh, okay. Up at this place.
Yeah, we kind of talked. I think we talked about that a little bit maybe last time I was on it. But
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, I mean, I just feel like this is such a big part of the growth of paintball. Is everybody showing up all the time, and like this is SC Village when we were there every weekend, and the community was so strong, and I don't know, Greensboro just is strong, So I would say that was kind of the best stop so far, and then of course Alabama is just. It's just amazing because it's like such a good field, and the people who steward the field, shout out to the McGowan family. They built this field. It's really a paintball field of dreams, and they like literally are meticulous on the grass, and the grass is like absolutely perfect, and everything's clean, and it's like, it just goes to show you if you care, you can make something really beautiful and nice in the sport. A paintball field doesn't have to be like a toxic war zone,
That's actually really funny that you say that, but yes, I mean, without a doubt, right? Is just taking care of it. That's what Fran always did such a good job of. I'll credit him big time for that. Like, is making sure it's important, right? And actually, I think that's a good segue right now to bring our next guest on.
Is he ready?
Yeah, he's ready, and to kind of talk about what it is that's going to help move the future of the sport in the right direction, and how is it important to. Like, how important is it to have like a nice product? Like, imagine if you just sold and this is another thing like we talked about when we took over Bob Long's company. It was like he made a great gun and he just threw it in like this box. It was a blank box with like some egg clam shell stuff, and like there was no branding on it, and it just disheveled crap just floating around in there. It's like marketing and packaging and presentation is so important. That's one of the coolest things about your product, about Hormesis, is like, you open the box. You looked at the box for the first time ever when you were like, wow, is that what it looks like?
Yeah.
But it's just like, not only is the headband so well crafted, and there's like the thought that goes into it, and then you have the insignia on the tail to like mean something, to give it that intention, set the intention.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, you have like thought, care, love, all put into the packaging side of things, which is such an important factor. And paintball field people, the whole park is a product.
That's right.
And it's so important to make sure that that product doesn't look like shit.
I agree. Again, I think some paintball fields just have so many people coming through them that they don't care, and then it's just
That is certainly one thing.
But I do think, like, in the future moving forward, if we want to be really presentable to outside people that are coming into paintball for the first time and are new, to make it somewhat presentable so that the parents can enjoy a nice coffee and have a nice place to sit, and have some fans and have some, shade, and, they're like, yeah, okay, I'll bring my kid out here every weekend. But, for the most part, people go to a paintball field and, it's dirty and there's nowhere to sit and everything is just in chaos and not a good chaos. And the parents are like, yeah, oh, so you like that, son? Oh, I'm not taking you back out there.
Mm-hmm. No, that's absolutely true. So here, let's get Mr. Billy Ceranski in here. 1 second. Let me put him in.
People were trying to guess.
Well, his name is on the it's on the list.
Show
So we're
notes?
on the show notes. So we're gonna jump into the NECTR projector right here. For some reason, it's only showing us. Go ahead, and Billy. Asked to start.
Hold on 1 second.
Yep. No
Oh,
problem.
here we go.
Here we go.
Start my
You gotta move
video.
that screen.
I'm gonna move the
Oh, there you
couple
go.
of things.
Yeah. Technology. Look at that.
Technology.
Look at
that.
Look at Oliver.
Billy!
You're back to being American, huh? No more Bangladesh?
No, I'm going back to Bangladesh on Monday next week. So,
Nice.
just ate American food, got a little fat, toured around.
Before he goes and hibernates out in Bali, and
Then I'm gonna go back to
Yeah.
getting in shape.
What'd you just get at dessert at lunch? Peach cobbler?
Cobbler.
I'll have the
Yeah.
peach
Massive
cobbler.
bowl. A massive bowl.
Yeah, you come here, get chronic disease, go back to Bali and get healthy.
Yes,
Come
that's
back
right. And
and
then
like,
come
hey,
back.
Yeah.
Yep. I figured it all out.
Yeah.
I like how you said I'm gonna go back and get in shape because I'm pretty sure when you come back from Bali, you're even bigger.
No.
I mean, healthier.
when I'm in
You're
when I'm
healthier.
in Bali,
Healthier.
I get I got good sleep and I got my bed and I got good food and I'm nourished.
Mm-hmm.
Here on the road, it's like it's too hard to try to stay. It's just too hard, Plus, it's like
It
you're
is hard
traveling
to
in
eat
places
good.
and it's like,
And you should treat yourself.
Oh, the steak in Memphis or the barbecue ribs in Memphis. Like, okay, I gotta eat that. A big wrap.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, that is a fact. You have to partake. It's culture.
That's right,
You've
yeah.
got to partake in the culture.
Yeah, that's right. Partake in the culture, and I am
Yeah.
learning to be American again. I will say. So that's not,
Ryan, you turned up one over there?
You want to turn up which one?
That one. Computer.
Yeah, got it. Billy, when was the last time you traveled outside of your last big international trip? We used to. I don't know if a lot of people know, but Billy and I used to be ripped through South America for the PPS. No, it's the.
Sweet Potato Paintball League?
No, it was more like the South American Peruvian Paintball League. No, what was
Yeah.
What was the league called?
Brazil. It's Tanya stuff.
Tanya
yeah,
stuff.
Tanya and Tony.
Tanya and Tony.
It's always in Brazil. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I did the other ones, and the ones that were underneath the overpass in Ecuador, the one that was like in
Right.
Chile, Argentina. But
Yeah, I didn't do those.
is that how you got into jiu-jitsu by going down there?
No, actually, the first time I went down was probably 93, 94.
Yeah, I
And-
kind of
and the
remember
guys
seeing
who-
photos of that in magazines or something.
Yeah. And the guys that did it actually were, they did do jiu-jitsu. They were, I think, distant cousins of some of the Gracies. And they talked about it. And then we were like, yeah, that's dumb. You just hit people. It's way better. And then once I stopped playing, I think Shiloh was the one who probably said, hey, look, you should do this. Because he had started coming about, and I needed something to get rid of stress and or anxiety or all of the above, aggression. He's like, go do this, and he goes, I promise you, it'll be just what you need because it'll be a good balance of getting beat up by people who shouldn't beat you up and calming you down. And I was like, sure, whatever. And then I went and trained at more of a mixed martial art place. It was Muay Thai, and we did that first. Then I did some jiu-jitsu. I didn't necessarily not like it, but I wasn't hooked. And then I went and trained in the gi, which is, basically wearing pajamas. And a 93-pound Japanese lady just beat me like a drum.
Yeah.
I was still playing at that point. That's when I was working out. That was like at the very end on the Ironman.
How
And I
old
was
were
like,
you?
32-ish, 33. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, this for sure works. Because I could pick her up and curl her, right? But I couldn't do anything to her. She couldn't do a lot to me overall, move me too much because I was just bigger and stronger at that point. But I for sure couldn't do anything to her. And eventually she got me in something. I think she put me in a triangle and I had to tap, and I was like, okay, I'm hooked. if she can beat my ass, anybody who could do this can beat my ass, and I can't take that. There's no way that's gonna work. Not with my mouth and my attitude. At least back then. I don't have all that same stuff in me anymore. I think I've either had it choked out of me or choked it out of others
Yeah.
for fun. So
where is it now on that experience? Like, where are you? Are you like a black belt, or like what is it, or where's it going?
yeah, I'm what am I? First going on 2nd degree black belt, which means I've been a black belt for almost 6 years. So
And that's
every
crazy.
3 years.
The timing it takes to like gain each level is like a lifetime. It seems.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I think the cool part about jiu-jitsu is, in most cases, not all for sure, but they care when you go somewhere that if you say, hey, I trained under Ryan or Spicka or Oliver, and that name's known, and you go there and you're a black, and you pull out your whatever belt, black belt, brown belt, purple, whatever it is, and you get beat like a drum, no one wants that, right? So everyone is super cognizant of where you are, and no one just gives away a belt, right? It's
Because it's on
similar
them. It's
principle.
on the name of the house that you're in, essentially.
100%.
Oh, interesting.
100%. Yeah, it'd be like you guys saying, hey, we let, Joe Smuckatelli on Dynasty just because you were being a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he runs around and goes, I'm on Dynasty. And just getting worked by everybody. Everybody's like, well, what? The Dynasty's terrible.
I see.
These
Yeah.
guys just let anybody play. Yeah, you don't want that.
I've never known that's the reasoning. Because obviously if you do like Taekwondo, I did Taekwondo. I was like a purple belt, and it took like, I remember I got in trouble because I missed a bunch of classes, but I knew how to do the form. So I went and I did my test, and they're like, well, we kind of have to pass you, but you need to come show up more and like train with us. And I was like, I got my breakdancing moves here, But so I just figured it was just kind of like pass the test, but that's actually a way more interesting kind of way that they do that. It's just it's they don't want to sign off on anybody.
I think that could be something really cool to do for paintball in the future. Like people have trained under you a specific amount of times, and then they get like a button or a pin or a headband, and then now it's like they're accredited.
Well, Nick Laval actually had a really interesting concept with that. And it was a training kind of belt thing, and I think that guy from the Tauntauns way back when who did that Project K, it was like a training. It was before BKI or right around the same time, and it was basically like as you finish specific lessons or you move through this task list, then you get another notch on the belt or another headband or whatever it might be, and it's basically saying that you have completed these steps and you've shown it off. You've shown that you can complete these things and you understand. Because obviously, how many times do we teach people how to do a 3-on-5 or an island drill, and they're like, got it, and then they go out and just blow it completely, and then they just kind of forget all those paces, even though they've done it multiple times, and it just kind of like keep dropping the ball when they're out in the real world.
Yeah, for sure. I think Kyle Berry, he has like a whole program that he did at a paintball field. I think he works with the BKI and you guys and does stuff. But he's same way. They have like he developed I want to say like a 10-week course that you go through that walk-on players could sign up and do just to give them basic skill sets and work on those things, drills and other stuff. And he said one of the guys that started in the original camp he did actually plays on the team now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's
right at the pro level.
Yeah,
so.
Kyle does a really good job with that because he gets it. He's constantly picking everybody's brains. It's kind of funny because he'll ask you questions. He'll be like, "Hey, we were just talking about." He'll be like, "Hey, what was going through your mind back in like 2017 in the prelims against Russians? You made a move out to the corner, and I just want to know why." I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude?"
Yeah.
So he goes a little in depth, but dude, it's actually really interesting, kind of like how his mindset goes because obviously, we do this and he helps train some of the U16 and U19 teams, and the whole scope of work that he's doing down in Florida is so important, I think, personally for the sport, to kind of keep kids not just excited about playing paintball, but also just engaged in the sport and growing within.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's. I talked about this earlier. I was on with Marcelo and Tyler earlier. Making, I guess, podcast rounds. Don't do any podcasts forever, and now do 2 in one day.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw you guys scheduled.
Yeah, we pulled that. Saw you on there.
Hold on, this is gonna be great right here. We've got a dumpster truck directly outside of the studio right now. Maybe you want to close the garage door real quick.
But I think the biggest difference from the heyday, what we'll call the heyday, so late 90s, very early 2000s, is the gap in between the number of people who are, we'll just call them, recreational, as far as they come play once, maybe twice, right, for a birthday party, something else like that, or what we'll consider walk-ons. Now, to me, a walk-on can be just some guy who has his own equipment, plays multiple times, and then what we became, right? Like, just consider all those guys one big bucket that are just more psycho through the list, right? Or more hooked on paintball, however you want to look at it. So I think the biggest gap isn't the number of people who play from the heyday, it's the mix, right? I think the mix is more renter-based now, right? People who come play for those birthdays. As a percent, it's probably 80. Well, it's more than that. It's probably 95%. And
Really?
I would say and I would say in the heyday we were probably 60-40. Maybe that's a little bit high.
And
maybe 70-30. That recreational to walk on. And now it's completely flipped.
Wow.
To that other thing. And that's why we don't sell as many guns. That's why we don't sell as much stuff.
So actually, Oliver was just kind of talking about how nice what was the field in Alabama?
Yeah,
Prime Paintball is, and like how they just take care of everything around it, and just like the packaging, right? You walk into a field and you just see how nice everything is and how important that is. What do you think? Like, what do you think is? How important is it that fields have? I mean, just something aesthetically pleasing, and then further, just the next question is: do you think it's important that there's a tournament park at these fields?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think having stuff that's aesthetically pleasing or nice and being clean as somewhere, a parent wants to leave their kids, because we are babysitters, right? And what we do is complicated to begin with, because we shoot at each other, which as much as America loves guns, they don't necessarily love that, including the gun culture, right? They definitely don't love that.
Right.
So having a clean aesthetic park is incredibly important. And I think the next part is, having a place where that type of player who is more hooked wants to come, whether it's a tournament park, whether it's a cool field for them to play on, that, towns, other things that aren't just, maybe so basic for, kids or those super recreational people is important, because we want them all, right? Like, I think that is probably the thing that became very clear to me in doing jiu-jitsu as I progressed, is most of these gyms are very small, right? Like, 50 to 100 students, and maybe they bring in $100 to $150 a head. And that's how they make their living, right? You could do the math. That's not a lot after you subtract rent and cleaning and all the other stuff that goes into that. So for us, so for jiu-jitsu, it's every student who comes in there, you want them to stick and stay. You know what I mean? So you never want anybody to leave, even if they kind of suck at talent-wise or even attitude. You have the opinion that you can change the attitude. Jiu-jitsu does that, right? I mean, you have no choice. You're either going to get a better attitude, or you're just going to get wore out so much that you are inevitably going to give up. And then on the other end, if you're scared and all these things, if you just get beat up by some black belt, some guy who's a psycho, then you're going to leave. But if you have the right culture and you get all those people to stay, then what do? You build your gym, and you want a bigger gym, not necessarily just for money, so you have more people to train against. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to train against all three of you. I don't want it just to be me and Ryan every day, because at some point we're going to know each other's game so much that you're not really training to a degree, right? To get better, you're just training to beat Ryan, or Ryan's training to beat Billy. So same principle in in paintball is, right, we want more people to be there to play, because it's more people for us to shoot at. However you want to look at it, right? Whether they're prepared to come and step onto a tournament field and play at a hardcore level with us, no, but the ability to bring those people out and say, hey, here's a bridge so you can come do that, so you can build skills and all these things. So eventually I can shoot you, right, when you're ready. And then you could teach me some things, because you're a guy I haven't played against ever. right? And you're going to have different views of how the game plays. Maybe you're more athletic, maybe you're less athletic, whatever it is. So you play the game differently, and that helps everybody. More people to shoot at, the better in paintball. I would say. That's why so many people like going to these big games, right? I mean, I think I've played 2 big games ever. Probably played recreational paintball the first 20 times I played, and then after that, it was all competitive.
Same.
Same.
Yeah. You can't pay Kyle to go into the woods.
Buddy, that's where it's all at.
That's where it's
But
all
Billy,
at.
you play like those ICPLs and stuff, don't you? Every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
As long as Poop and Ren and the guys want to play.
dude,
I'm
I got to play with Todd last weekend at in the Masters. Dude, he's a riot, man. He is so funny. He is so funny.
Dude, he's so clever too. Like how quick he is with one-liners. I'm like, damn, how does he think of that? Like just.
Dude, and he still got it, man.
He's still try playing with him. That's the way he zings it is the way he plays.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just chaos.
That was a cool experience.
He's the man.
Well, what would you say? This is actually from Junior. BFP Gear sponsors the show, and do a little segment, give him the question of the day from bfpgear.com. And obviously, Junior's been in the industry for a long time. From his story kind of coming out from England, because he's like, I want to do that, and he worked through at the Excessive Camp, and then now he runs the BFP Gear. He's got his own field as well. He was asking, what do you feel is the most effective marketing strategy for a paintball park to focus on currently? Because I know that when you're looking at this 90 to 95% walk-ons, first timers playing, like that's where it's at. I feel like a lot of it's just such a hard thing to pair up. There's fields that only care about, they don't care about retention. They care about birthday parties, in, out, give me the next player. But what do you think is the most effective marketing strategy for a paintball park to focus on?
That's a hard one. I think you have to say at this point it is because of the way we're built, it is continuing to pull in new players. Mm-hmm. I think my caveat would be is that as an industry or as field owners, one of the focuses should be how do we retain people?
Yeah.
And how do we suck them in is probably the wrong way to say that, but how do we give them the same juice that all 4 of us got, right? Because there was something that got us in a different way to make us want to do this as our thing. And maybe you guys are different, but when I first played, again, this is in the 80s, so it's a little different, but I had a baseball batting helmet on. I was not good. I couldn't figure out anything. I was scared to death, right? And it was the adrenaline that hooked me, and I spent every dollar to go back. Then, I left for a little while, went off to the Marines, came back, and there was a field that had opened up right in Santa Clara indoor. I'm giving you a long story to get to my answer here. And then I went and played one time, and they're like, man, you guys really like this. I went with 2 friends. I said, yeah. They're like, you guys seem like really competitive. Yeah. Well, we have a league on Sunday nights, and you just need 5 friends. And that was it. That was everything we did after that. When we joined the league, it was, I don't know what it was, $500 or something. And then we played that night, every weekend. And then we would come on like a Tuesday or something just to practice, the 3 or 4 or 5 of us who could ever get together, so we could practice playing together, because we just wanted to win the league. So for us, it was a complete competitive thing. And that brought really 5 people together, 3 of us who never knew each other. And then, we've all remained friends throughout the years. We still talk in some way, shape, or form. So to me, the competitive part drew us together. I think what everyone needs to figure out, or we need to figure out as a group, is how do we create that if you don't want to be a competitive guy, but you really like the rush, you really like paintball? How do we connect you with other people who are similarly focused, right, or like paintball, to come play at the same time? Because, paintball is, like I said, more fun when there's more people to shoot. That's a fact, I think. And if you look at this year, one of the challenges the industry's had is a lot of poor weather in the beginning, and nobody likes to play in the rain, even at a competitive level, let alone if you're paying to go play. So the walk-on group has pretty much been decimated, I think, over the course of the year. By decimated, it shrank considerably. right? And those guys just go start to do other things because they don't necessarily have a friend, maybe, right? That's 4 guys they wanted to play with. Someone left. I don't know. But if I was going to spend money on marketing or effort, that's where I would put focus and effort, is to how to build that culture of, getting people that paintball is the orbit that you fly around, and it's easy to find all those other guys or gals, right? All those other people who think that's fun and they want to come together, for whatever reason, once a month, once every other month, whatever it is, to come play and, have fun. I think that's where I'd spend my effort. If I had to say where everyone should focus.
So then, how do we convince? So what do you think is the ratio here between the fields that have like a healthy tournament park and a healthy rec side versus the fields that only have recreational and no next step? Because I think that orbit that you're talking about, it's funny. I just watched an extended trailer of the Iron Kids documentary, and one of the things that really stuck out to me in it was kind of the Mare Island ecosystem and how there was like that step, right? You could be the walk-ons who've never played before, and then you got Big Rich who just wants to play every single weekend, pretty rain or shine, and then you've got his son Alex and Oliver who are there every weekend with him, and they're just kind of like definitely doing that. But then there's the speedball field, which you're familiar with, and then that's kind of like where that evolution of the every single day weekend warrior, like who's gonna go play there, who brings this the sphere of influence, kind of jets off a little bit to that more competitive side. But having all of those aspects at the field is super important for the cultivation of that specific trajectory, right? If you don't have a speedball field back then or a tournament park now, there may never be that light in someone's eyes. And Marcelo is also a great example of it, because he's like, first time he ever played paintball, he's playing with his dad, and he looked over and there was a tournament park there, and he goes, I want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I know this question's for Billy, but I know exactly that same feeling that Marcelo had, because I remember at Mare Island playing in the woods with Alex and his dad as being a rec player, and then hearing the Iron Men and some other team next to me with the autocockers, and they're going, all the guns would be loud, and all the guys were screaming, playing in the woods, and I'm like, what is that? Like, I want to do whatever they're doing, so that was, that was the next step. And I think as a field owner, they sometimes respect pros and respect tournament players and want them to come there, but you need to, I think most fields should have that integration so that other people who are just showing up are like, okay, so you can play the walk-ons, and then here's the speedball, and then here's where the pros play, and then people can go and watch and look and be in awe and hear it and see it, and like, okay, I want to do that, so how do I do that? Boom, 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 boom to get there,
Yeah, so I agree wholeheartedly. I think, to answer your question, I don't know, probably less than 50% have some kind of tournament field area would be my overall guess. And I think, that is one of the things that we talked about this earlier, but on the other podcast and we've talked about in general, is it is definitely broken between how people view tournament players specifically, I think, and then most players, right? Because I think tournament players, right and wrongly, I do think it is both, are just seen as like a drag, right? They want everything for free. Yeah. They want things for cheap. They want the perfect area. They want air. They want to be able to do all this stuff, run racket, and they don't want to pay to do any of it, right? Or very little, and then when they're asked, okay, you want to do all this, you can pay whatever it is, $5 to come play for air, whatever the nonsense is, bring your own paint, all these things. And then, set up your own field. No, I don't want to do that. Right? Like, you have this a bit of a culture that is at odds, because, I will say in doing some things now that, making a turfed tournament field that's nice, from the scratch, it's like being on the line from scratch, probably costs $30,000, right, to do.
Yeah.
And then to have a compressor that can fill the air and do all these things, and if people were gonna play X ball, have pits and all this stuff, you're probably into it for another 30 grand. So that's 60 grand, not including the airball field, which is probably $12,000, right? When you're all said and done. So what is that? $80,000, and people want to come either play for free or very little money. And then, next year they update the field, so you got to buy more stuff. And when you do just a return on that money that you're spending, you're like, well, why am I doing this? This doesn't make any sense, right? Especially when you ask for help, and like we were just saying, you say, okay, look, you guys want to do all this, no problem, but I would like you to do a clinic a month, something, teach some kids some things, some this, or probably the easiest thing is just do a post that my park's awesome and come play, and this is a good thing to do. And you can't get, I'm not saying you can't get any of it, but to get that consistently without pushback or like, I can't believe you want all this is hard, right? And I think that is the yin and yang we got to figure out, is that we want the people who are into paintball, even even if it's just from a competitive standpoint, right? Or that's what kind of runs their life. Because again, I've been in since the 80s. You guys have been in since the 90s, right? You can do the math. I realize that we all got to play paintball for free, or you guys still play paintball for free, but we paid, I can tell you, I paid a lot of money to play this game, right? A case of paint when I first started playing was $200. And I shot a lot of cases of paint before I got to play for free. You know what I mean? And most people never make it to where you get to play for free. So you want those people around, because they will sing the trumpets of paintball is awesome, paintball is this, paintball is that. And that's what you want. But they do have to live it. I think they have to understand is, like, these things cost real money to these field operators and other things, and you got to be willing to give back, whether it's time, effort, something, or pay a reasonable price to come do it. And I think everybody just gets into this food chain where, like, we're just the pros, we should get. What does that mean?
Well, I think it comes down to kind of that, and again, to use Mare Island as an example, it's like, we were connected with the owner. The owner was our kind of like, he was our friend, and also we looked up to him and respected him. And like, he broke us off, but we had to do those types of things, And then I remember always being a pro, and then like, going to specific fields here in San Diego, and like owners don't even want to talk to us, and they don't even want to bridge the gap, And then you go play, and then, something happens, or I don't know, and they're like, okay, you guys aren't invited back. And it's like, well, could we even just get like a face-to-face? And, so I think that could be like a big part to this, is like fusing pros with fields and building those networks back up, and, having fields invite Ryan out, or invite me out, or invite Kyle out and say, hey, how can we improve this place? This could be an initiative that, could be undertaken quite easily, and in a small amount of time. And each field, like, I know that these guys are available. I'm not as available as anymore, but I'm sure even to a certain degree you're available. If a field was like, hey, Billy, can you come out and just check out this place and see what it's like and see how we can improve it? I'm sure you'd be into it. I know I would in my day. And I'm sure Ryan would, but like, again, there's a big detachment between field owners and pros, just in general, and players who play there on a regular basis,
Yeah, I would argue that not every field, but many fields, as they cultivate players, or players come up out of there, right? We all, like we said, Mare Island is where the three of us, for sure, I don't know about Kyle, but the three of us for sure played at. Forever, and that, I would argue, made at least me good, and a good paintball player, or an aggressive paintball player. Same with others like Danny Love and the rest. But to have those guys be your pro, like a good golf courses all have golf pros, right? They have a card. Whether they're good golfers and can go compete on the tour, I don't know, but they're there to help teach, or clinics, or work through. And I do think there should be some symbionts there where that can happen, where a pro player, isn't just reliant on people to give him free stuff. He can earn and give back, and it becomes, a tangible thing where people see, pros as a value, or amateur player, anybody. It doesn't matter. Everyone needs to give back, right? Nothing is free in this world, you know, and I think that is part of the disconnect. You definitely hear, you know, not to be on the other end of the spectrum, but you hear people all the time, oh, we're pro now and I need everything for free. I need, you know, $50,000 to play paintball. Mm-hmm. Like, well, what do we get? Well, you know, I'm going to wear your stuff. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily cut it, right? You know, and I know people think that is what it is, but LeBron James or these other guys in other sports, and you can pick any sport you want, there is a return on that investment that people get back, whether they're selling jerseys or something, you know, they're getting money back. That's the only reason brands sponsor things, is that there's a direct tie back that they can measure. And that is hard to do in our industry for sure. But you know, you're right, Oak. You know, the better that connection is between everybody, I think the better everybody is throughout the food chain or the stack, right? Everybody can make money and everybody can see the value, and then you get rid of, like, we don't want, you know, competitive paintball people here, because, you know, again, they're paintball people. I'd want everybody who's into paintball, who's a good person, to be there, right? Who's not going to just shoot people up to be a jerk. So pretty much half the people I played with couldn't be there.
Yeah, that's the problem, right?
You know, I was thinking about too, through that conversation, one of the big like allures, or like also trying to figure out what, you know, what causes that almost like addiction to keep playing when you're young. And I always think about too, like a common thing that people say is the magazines, like like the magazines, which I feel like, you know, social media has replaced that now. But do you feel like, for me, I think that was something that like stuck too, like cool having that physical magazine. It's cool that Alex is doing that, bringing that back a little bit, but like, I don't know, just comparing it to, I guess that would be social media now, right? But like, you know, I don't know, it's different though. It doesn't compare. Like going to get like see what the new Faceful looks like, or APG or whatever it was. I feel like it had just like more weight to it emotionally to like invoke that in you than. So no, I think that's part of it. Like the culture, like I want to be a part of that culture.
I definitely think that helps. When I first started, I think there was APG. That was probably it. And then Paintball News came on later. But I remember the first time you could read about a tournament that was somewhere else, I was like, oh, but you know, I was a bit hooked then. And then it was like, okay, we're going to go travel, you know, let's save up our pennies and let's go play, you know, the Zap Amateur Open. It was, I think, just the Amateur Open at that point. But, you know, one of those other things, or Boston or you know, shit. I remember the first NPPL, right? There was no NPPL. It was all Lively. So the first NPPL started, right, in Reno. I remember that. And then you're like, oh, my God, we can go do that. And, you know, the first time you see your face in a magazine or your name in a magazine, all that definitely connects and has some pull or lure, because it's real. You know, my mom always hated that I did this because it made me drop out of college. It made me do all the things that any mom would not want you to do, I guess, even though I think it's worked out pretty well. But I think she still has a few magazines floating around at the house that I'm in, and she's pulled them out before. But I mean, that I definitely think was a big thing. And, you know, the fact that there aren't any around, and for sure Alex starting to redo that will definitely help. Mm-hmm. It adds credibility. It's no different than when the product entered Walmart. I don't think people realize how big of a deal that was. Even if it wasn't the greatest product that hit the shelves, you know, you went from a bunch of crazies that ran around in the woods pretending they were, you know, G.I. Joe, to, hey, Walmart sells this must be safe and okay for me to go do. Mm-hmm. And that was the first big blow up of paintball, is when it really hit their shelves in a big way.
So are your products like in those places still? Do you still have, yeah? So Walmart?
We're in Walmart, Academy, Canadian Tire, and a bunch of other places, Bill's Fleet Farm and some other ones, but
Bass Pro Shop?
Not to the Cabela's in Canada, not Bass Pro / Cabela's in the US. But hopefully soon.
What brands are under the core umbrella?
Dick's Sporting Goods too.
You guys have Dick's?
No, Dick's actually got out of all shooting, and just by the way everybody does it, how they got into it, paintball has always been under hunting. So I think only Walmart really broke us out of that early on, into sporting goods. So when Dick's exited shooting in any way hunting, we just all got booted, unfortunately, like about a year and a half ago.
How do we like, I don't know if there's a rebrand, but like, I don't know, how do you push through or break through and to get like things reclassified or just kind of, how do you get back into that big box, and what is it? Is there something that you can do to, like, again, indoctrinate the players there to let them know that there's a competitive side of things?
So we're working on a program right now, trying to get what we'll call just a field finder, the ability, like call it an Airbnb listing for paintball fields, right? With all their services or whatever else they do. And we're trying to get that on one of the big box retailers' websites, right? That sells paintball stuff. It's probably an 18-month project, but I think if that gets on there, then that will probably be one of the first steps to help bridge that gap. And then I think on that website, the plan is, or that link, which will bring you to the website, is really to explain all the different kind of things about paintball, right? Here's, you came in through this portal. Let's just pretend it's, doesn't even matter, but Walmart, Amazon, whatever, you came in through Dick's, because it'll just make it easy, their portal, and you know what they sell. But also here's what is paintball, right? Paintball is all these different facets. Here's different ways to play. You can come in and do this. You can rent. You can do this for a birthday party. It's great for this. Oh, there's a competitive streak. Hey, here's the leagues. Here's all these things. And I think it's just like anything else, right? A certain amount of education and tied back to content that's exciting, right? Watching you guys run around, play, whatever, a big game, whatever that thing is that works to get them on the hook, and that they go out and try, and then they ask questions. And then I think the next bridge of that is at those paintball fields that you're promoting on this site, these other things, is that they really have a full stack. They have good literature, is probably the wrong way, but signage. Hey, here's all the different, sort of facets of paintball. They have knowledgeable people there, right? Like we said, maybe there's a pro there. Yeah. That just works there because it makes sense. But that, that's, like I said, that's a bit of a heavy lift. I think,
to
overall,
make sure that all of those pieces line up, to make sure that everybody's going to have, like you said, just vetting the fields that go on there to make sure that whoever goes there is going to have a good experience. Which, and I think everybody buying off that they're part of that process, and there's a benefit there, right? Like you have to want the field owner to be excited about getting a bunch of people in that may ask a bunch of questions, and then you need highly motivated guys like. Any one of you three or anybody who's a competitive person, right? Player that's hooked, whether they're D4, D1 or pro, they're hooked. And if they're there to impart knowledge or, take care of that person, while they're playing, make sure that experience is positive, talk to the parent, explain, how this has helped, how this has been a good thing for you or for, that individual. Yeah, I think you can hook anybody to do this, right? I mean, I said this earlier, but I would argue we have the greatest game or sellable thing that there is. I think. I absolutely agree with that. And we've said it so many times, and I actually just talked to one of the show supporters who won a couple weeks ago and messaged me and reached out and said kind of how touching, or like how much it meant that we say it so many times, but I don't know if there's any other team sport where every player essentially has the ball, right? Everybody has a direct effect on the outcome of the game. You can be the best top athlete, peak performance, and then you could be the complete absolute opposite of that. And it doesn't really matter once you have your paintball marker in your hand. You still, it's not like somebody can't pass you the ball. Whereas like we play any other sport, they'll be like, all right, well, you're short, you're kind of in the middle there, you're short, like I want someone tall to play this, or I want someone faster to do that, and like you're gonna be picked last. And that's the difference here with paintball, and I don't know if there's any other team sport like that.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and look, I would, most people don't know, but the guy I'm about to say, but I would argue Gary Noblet is probably the one of, if not the greatest paintball player who ever played. And, you know, for those who don't know, Gary is 250 pounds, you know, on a good day. He's a big dude, looks like a biker. You know, if you saw him roll up in Sons of Anarchy, that movie or that show, you'd be like, yep, that's him, for sure fits. You know, he rode motocross as a kid and was a big dude, has 2 blown out knees, right? So he could, I would argue I could speed walk faster than he could run to catch me if we were going to get in a fight. And his defense was always, and he taught me this, I don't have to chase you. I'll just go sit on the hood of your car. Eventually you have to come back. Or I know where you live, right? Like, but his brain, his eyes, his ability to pull things off, you could be laying in a bunker getting blown to pieces, and you look over and he's standing right next to you in the middle of the open. Like, what are you doing? He's like, you need to line up trees and do all these things, right? But that was a guy that in any other sport you were like, yeah, this dude's never walking out on the paintball field. And look at Todd, right? You know, Todd was not the best in shape guy, and he was a savage. Now he's in shape, he's still a savage.
Yeah.
Right? This game, it pays to have good hand-eye coordination, no fear to a certain degree, or fear with the understanding that when you feel the urge to go, or the sense that you need to do something, that you acted on that sense, right? We would call that timing, but I think that's what it was. My guess is, I always had a sense of fear. And then there was a little trigger that says, if you don't do something, you are going to have a really big regret, and it's going to come in the form of a sting from getting shot up. And so you would release and go. You know, that's how I always felt. It's like, there's something that needs to happen, and you just go. You just take advantage. But yeah, I mean, you could be small, you could be tall, you could be athletic, you could be non-athletic, and you could play this game for sure. And meet a lot of great people throughout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good. that's I think one of the most important factors, right? And Alex actually mentions it too, quite a bit. And it's kind of funny. He's like, you become best friends with people that you probably would not have become friends with prior. Like, I don't know how many scary biker gang like people you hang out with before Gary, but that could be one of them, you know. But like Johnny Perchek and Alex FRAIGE are a perfect example of it, you know. The jock and the lowly artist, you know. It's like there's the two people, and I wouldn't even hang out with, probably wouldn't have hung out with Johnny or BC, you know. I wasn't the cool kid, and it's just such a unique sport in that sense, and it's funny because that's like that little bit of lightning in the bottle that you can capture, like that example with the thrill of everything. If there was a person in the world, I don't even know if you could hire the best marketing agency in the world to even just explain that in some sort of caption, photo, or video, then that would probably that's the key to saving paintball, or getting it to the next level.
No, for sure. Yeah, we talked about, yeah, you know, I think that's why I've been a bit drawn to jiu-jitsu, is that you know, basically you get to fight at a life and death level with no real repercussions, because you could tap, you could give up, right? And as long as you're at a cool place, you're just like, oh, I'm in trouble, tap, and you give up and you restart and you do it again. And it's the only, you know, I would say outside of paintball, it's the only thing I've ever found where you're doing something that is ultra aggressive, right? We shoot at it. We play a very aggressive form of capture the flag / tag, right? Where we shoot each other. And at the end, you could come right up behind somebody, double tap some dude in the ear, and as they walk off, they're like, thanks, man, that was awesome. And you're just like, what? Yeah, I don't know about all that, but yes. And the same thing, you know, the guy stretches your arm out and you get ready to break it and you tap. It's like, well, thanks. And you hug each other at the end and you're just a sweaty mess and you keep going. You know, it's amazing. It is all the adrenaline and fighting, chaos, combat, all the rest with, you know, zero real repercussions, as long as you're smart, as far as safety wise.
Did he answer you?
You can't get that anywhere else.
Did you say all the brands that are underneath core now? Because I think I asked that.
Oh yeah.
No. Yeah. So I go with the big ones. GI. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No. So no. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Someone,
so GI.
asking.
Yeah. So GI, Empire, JT, Kingman, Titman. Technically, I think we still own War Games. We used to own the Smart Parts stuff, but we sold that back to the Smart Parts guys. Invert, which I don't think really does much anymore. I think those are the biggies. I'm sure if I thought through, there's probably more. I think by default, we probably own Unique and probably have let that go over the years.
Oh, that'd
trademark wise.
That'd be a cool one to bring back.
So,
what does what does Core do to kind of? Do you guys have like a big marketing budget to like outside paintball people, like like billboards or like advertising at the mall, or like I don't know? Do you guys do any of that, or is there a something going on in terms of that?
No, not currently. We don't have anything like that. I mean, we're working on a little project for in the Dallas area that we're going to try to expand. But I think the hardest part for us is when we talk about paintball or we talk about our brands or anything else, it really is exclusive to those people who play paintball, right? Or who have played paintball and may be interested in investing in equipment. I think that's probably one of the harder things that is out there, is that really the best person to talk to the consumer, if they're doing a good job, are paintball fields. Because what am I going to say? This is how you play paintball, and then they go, where do I go play paintball? And if they look it up and that field doesn't do all the things that we've talked about, right? Like there's tournaments, this, then it just creates a confusion, and confusion is probably the enemy of all marketing, I would say. Mm-hmm. So our focus really is around those people who have played, who may want to, may be hooked and want to invest and buy equipment, or have bought equipment and want to continue down that path. I would say from a business focus, let me take my hat off here. I'll give you a glare instead of the fade there. I would say from a business focus, we try to spend most of our time and our efforts on paintball fields and trying to help them decide, what they want to do, how they can grow their business, how we can support them. Not a lot of fields are cash rich or have a lot of space. So we have facilities all around to be able to get them paint on a day's notice, 2 days notice, which has made us successful and why we, I think, deal with every paintball field. We also spend a lot of time in formulation, making sure we have paint that will break in any climate or weather, because weather, as we know, and heat and humidity are pretty much the antichrist for paintball's breaking. So doing that consistently and making that for a field that can, have paint that sits out is complicated, to say the least. And that's where we spend most of our time. Kind of going back to the Dallas thing, we are working on, again, that sort of Airbnb concept, field finder area, and we're going to spend some money to promote that in the area on Facebook and other places to try to drive traffic to those fields. People will be able to go on there and not necessarily reserve a game and pay, but they'll be able to reach out to a field and say, hey, Ryan's Paintball Park, I have 10 people and I want to play on Saturday the 8th, and then you can talk to them directly and say, yes, cool, this is everything, this is what it costs. And there'll be enough, knowledge around, paintball and what it is and what that means. And we hope that can drive some more traffic, even if it's that beginner person. And then take what we learn from that, that spend and those marketing efforts, to be able to spread that out and say, look, here, we spent 10 grand, whatever the number is, over 3 months, 5 months. And these 3 things were not successful, didn't generate very much return. And here's why, or here's what we think. And these, 6 or 7, whatever the other number is, generated this return, right? Like we spent 5 grand and we generated $50,000 in players spend, right? That came to fields, and then be able to take that and give that to everybody, right? Every paintball field. Because arguably, I think one of the things that we, as an industry, same principle, you want the more people that market or talk about paintball, the better chance we have to get more people to play paintball, which, the next step would be, how do we cultivate those people? And if everybody's talking about that, then we can cultivate more people out, and to stay mainstream players, and I think that those are the steps that we're working on. But again, it is difficult because we get, I would say more than any other brand or company, we probably get eaten up that we spend too much money on the pros, right? Or on this one small segment of the industry than we do on them. But in most cases, any marketing spend that we have, which I would argue is fairly large, it's in the millions of dollars that we spend, is almost all predicated on what those operators want to do, right? And we push, I think probably to most people's chagrin, to not necessarily sponsor a bunch of people to go play paintball for free, but we sponsor, hey, we'll give you this money, go market to get more people, build this system so that you can cultivate more people, to turn them either into competitive players, walk-ons, or whatever. That's where you should spend your money. But I think, the good and the bad about most paintball operators is that they were paintball players first. So that is their passion. And that is a good thing. And it's also can be a negative. You can't get out of your own way, right?
How many fields do you think there are now in the continental U.S.?
500-ish.
That's it, huh?
That's it.
And I would say probably 350 really good ones or above average.
And what about stores,
And
actual paintball stores?
Much less.
How about
much less. I would argue. Go ahead.
Active players, like that are more than like I'd say, I don't know if you want to call them once a month players or not the one and done kind of players.
Ooh, so here's I think the numbers. I'll give them probably to you a different way, and then you can maybe back into some of the numbers. I would say when I look at players and we talk about players internally, we look at unique and then what we'll just call players, right? And so here's the difference. A unique player is what it sounds like. Ryan Greenspan is a unique player, right? You come, you play once, I counted you once. And then players are people who play, could be Ryan, but Ryan plays every day or once a week, right? So Ryan would count as 52 people, right? If you play every week, there's 52 weeks in a year. So you count as 52, right? Because you repeat. You know what I'm saying? So every time you come in and play, you count as a cycle. So I think there are roughly 3 to 3.5 million unique players. And I think there are roughly, probably this year it's down 4.5 to 5 million players, right? So you got, when you look at that, that means some of that 3.5 is playing, X amount of times. Mm-hmm. And then I think tournament wise, the best number I've ever heard is roughly over the last sort of 10-ish years, there's plus or minus 10%, never been more than 17,000, what we would call tournament players. Right. Wow. So that's anybody who goes really to NXL, MSXL, the WCPL, the USXPL, all those leagues, that where you got to register and do stuff. That's probably the right set of numbers. So you can plus or minus that 10%. That one number.
Right.
And then, I think, if you ask most people, the industry this year from a participation standpoint is probably off 10-ish%, maybe 15, depending where you're at. And I would say most of that is from the walk-on type player just not playing as much this year as he did previous.
Right.
And then the reason, in some places that group is off 40 or 50%. And I think some of the offset is that, is that there's been in some areas more of that one-time player. So more of those birthday type people. Mm-hmm. And then I think the other part is that just the tournaments in themselves have actually, for the most part, all been up, right? Like, then the NXL, I think is up 20%. Now they kind of the same way I just did my counting.
Yeah, they do.
We have 400 teams, but they have whatever would equate to be 300 teams worth of unique players because all those guys use go and play. But it counts in the food chain because they're spending money. So
right.
So Billy, when do you think was because you've been in the industry for a long time as a player, and you've worked on. I mean, you've been working in the industry your whole life, pretty much, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So when was the biggest industry boom? Like what years were those? And why do you think those were they just because based on economics in the US, or was it a series of different things with lots of different at one point it was like super healthy, there was Dye, Smart Parts, Angel, WDP, there's all these brands that were like fighting to be number one, which kind of created a competition within the brands growing and becoming innovative, so like when was that era that you think was kind of the strongest?
I would say our peak was probably started in 98, 99, and then ran to 2002, and then started compressing from there. And then obviously 2008 was, not great for anybody in the world. But I would say that's when the first really big hit started. And what I would say is, again, maybe in the way I explained the player base, unique versus players, maybe there were 6 million players then, right? Players, but unique wise, I don't know if the number was so different, right? Mm-hmm. From that 3 to 3.5. I just think the mix was different. I think the mix may have been, like I said, 70-30, 30% being that walk-on guy who's going to play. Like, a walk-on probably plays 5 times a year, right? On a bad schedule. And that doesn't include the tournament guys who play, what do you guys play, 10 times a year minimally, right? Between the events, if you're only playing in the US. So it doesn't take a lot to say if you have 30% more of those guys, 30% on 3.5 million players is what? 600,000 people, rough math. Is that right? Something like that.
I don't know. I barely went to high school.
Ryan's good at math.
So,
Ryan,
but so like, what about in paint? So like, you've been working with RP, and you've been, RP was like, people who don't know, that was the best. That was the Marbleizer, and then like, okay, this is a two-point question. One is like, how much was RP selling in terms of volume compared to now, and kind of explain to me, because this is a personal question and it'd be good for everybody, is like, what happened? What was the trajectory? Like, what happened to RP? Who took them over? Like, what was the series of things to get it to where it is now for the paint industry? Like the sequence.
So we definitely, sure. I would say, back in the day, we're selling right around 1 million cases of paint a year for RP.
When was that?
Probably the late 90s. Right. And I would say that, Pro Caps back then, which is, became GI, was probably about 700,000 or 800,000 cases a year. So pretty comparable. A lot of it went overseas. I would definitely say now the numbers are less than that for sure. Really? I would tell you we still sell, well over 1 million cases of paint as core. I don't think anybody else, I would argue we probably sell in a month what most people sell all year from our competitor standpoint. You could just add those guys up. And I think the biggest difference there is that the average person now probably shoots 450 to 600 paintballs when they go play. And again, that goes to the mix of people that are playing. Versus in the heyday, I bet you it was close to a case, 2,000 rounds, right? Because there was that mix again. It's just really throws it out, because we will shoot. Just go back even before it became ultra competitive. I would argue we were the guys buying a case of paint even at $200, right? And then we were going to shoot that one way or another, where most people aren't doing that. So I don't necessarily, again, think it's just players have just eroded away. I think it's just a different mix that's caused that. Back to your next question. So RP was owned by an outside group, a pharmaceutical company, right? And the interesting thing about RP Shear is the guy who created the encapsulation machine, his name was RP Shearer. So the only reason you have, he's the one that the original machine that he created the encapsulation process or made is the machines we used all the way up until probably the mid 2000s. They were 80 years old, some of those machines. because the machine's a machine. So anything you use that is a gel tablet, I think vitamin E or vitamin D is probably the most thing that people can equate to, that's made on the same machine, right? There's just certain different processes, and obviously the ingredients are a little different. But we had an exclusive relationship as PMI with RP to be the exclusive distributor. And I want to say late 90s, they came to us and said, we want to get out, right? I mean, they got bought by, I think it was Cardinal Health, which does, I don't know, $5 or $6 billion a year in pharmaceuticals. And even though we had never paid late, I think we were, as a single one unit customer, probably one of their biggest customers. I think we were spending $35 million a year with them, to buy paint from them. They said, hey, we don't want to do this anymore. We're going to get out. So you got to buy the plant today, basically. So we had to go raise money, roughly $30 million, to buy this plant, or they were going to actually sell it to Brass Eagle and just completely torpedo us.
Damn.
They didn't care. Like ruthless dudes, super scumbags. So we bought the plant, did all that, and
that was
kept
PMI.
that plant run. Yeah, it was PMI. Yeah. Kept that plant running really until the mid to late 2000, probably 2013. And then we shuntered it, put some paint overseas, did some stuff, had another smaller plant, which was XO up in Canada, made some paint there, because it just wasn't financially viable anymore. The craziest thing is when we first were with RP, the plant was in the pharmaceutical plant. So everything was perfectly controlled, right? Like that's a huge part of the process, and why I would argue most people can't make good, consistent paint over, massive batches, is because they're not in a plant that's made to make paintballs. You know what I mean? Like you can't just make a paintball in a place where you cannot control humidity, temperature, or anything else over long periods of time across the whole spectrum. And most people don't have that, right? They just have machines in a warehouse and they try to throw other things in the mix to help offset that. So at some point in the mid 90s, RP was just like, yeah, this is in the way, we don't like it, and just rented a space and put it in a sort of 60,000 square foot facility. And then we spent the better part of 10 years really figuring out how to make good paint there. And it was in Florida, so that doesn't help, right? The roof would leak when it rained hard, and all those things are terrible for a paintball. And that all just coincided with when Richmond started, Diablo / Pro Caps, whatever you want to call it. And we had, inconsistent, we went from having no quality issues ever to some quality problems. And he came in and was at a cheaper price with quality problems, but people were willing to take a chance. And then, he started gaining legs, and then he built, which is the plant we have today, the only plant, as far as I know, that is specifically made to make paintballs, right? Like through the whole process. It's all thought out through every aspect of it, including the fact that we have to control temperature, humidity, all those things around the process.
And that's where?
Which is the plant we have. That's in Montreal. That's the plant we have today. Yep.
Yeah, and I will say that, I obviously don't play paintball that much anymore, but I will say that, you guys switching to GI and then having that paint, like all of a sudden it was like the first time in a long time where like that thing that is always a thing and probably one of the most important things was like solved.
Yeah.
It was like all of a sudden it was like you didn't have to think about it, and it wasn't a worry, and it wasn't like, oh my God, our paint sucks. And there was lots of times and different iterations of my whole career that it was like hard,
constantly
or like practice paint could just
practice
be like,
paint. I think practice paint was one of the biggest things for us when we switched with you guys, was having consistently good practice paint. Because you remember when you were on the team, you're just like
the Dynasty ball is epic.
Yeah, but before back in the day, throughout all the other ones, you're just kind of like, how are we gonna play in this? We can't even practice. Yeah. And we say it all the time. Like one of the biggest talking points about it is like, you spend all this money preparing, and then you spend all this money going to a big event, but then you skimp on this little bit that's gonna like help push you over the edge. This is like the one opportunity you have, and it's the same thing. Like practicing for the one-on-one stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you
Buy a
put in
shitty
some-
pencil for
I mean,
a test
if
that you
I was-
studied,
Yeah.
you studied for the bar exam, and then you buy a
If-
shitty pencil. You can't take it.
If I was an average player that just went out and I was the walk-on or the unique, like you said, like, it's funny because I would use that. I would buy the most expensive paint. Like, now, you know, with what I know,
Yeah.
I would buy the most expensive paint because I'm going to yield the best time from that, knowing that. Like, even when I would go and play walk-ons, which is a terrible thing to do, you go shoot them with marbleizer or really good paint, you know? At that point,
We got kicked out.
you know.
Of Eric Crandall kicked us out of Mare Island.
Yeah, maybe
him
you don't know
first.
this story. This
Him
is a great.
first.
This is a great story. When I went to Out of Control, we'd ref the first event, right? So I think
We ref Vegas.
we'd ref Vegas, right? And I was on Out of Control. Yeah, he was Out of Control, and we went to you guys, and we harvested all your yellow evil marbleizer. It was the yellow with the green kind of tiger stripe looking, right? And we brought it all back,
Regular.
and I remember we were like on the airplane, we're like 17-year-old kids, like we taped it like 3 boxes together, so it was like a carry-on, you know. And we're like, yeah, well, this is good, right? And then we're like
brought
putting
it on
it.
the plane.
We brought it on the plane. We put it through the X-ray machine, and they were like, "What is this?" And then we got it home, and we were like, "Yeah, man,
Yeah.
we're gonna be good." So we started going to the Annis at Mare Island, and you know we're decent
That
at
was
this time.
that paint. I don't know if you got.
You don't even you've never
no one
even
knows,
experienced.
dude.
The
No
ball
one
was
knows.
large and strong, and
was
and when it
heavy.
hit, it would crack and just explode. Like one ball would hit, and it would be like this big.
It didn't make
Yeah.
sense how they fit so much paint into one.
It didn't
ball.
make sense, yeah. And then we went and we shot, or I shot all these walk-ons up with it, and Eric was pissed.
Yes. Imagine
And-
being
and-
the
And he was like, you cannot use this here. And I was like so bummed because I was like, man, I just walked this home from, you know, Aftershock just gave this to me, and I was bummed. So of course, you know, being 16, you know, I was very clever, and I was like, well, I'll just sell it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I sold it to somebody else, and I think it was like even out of the booth to like a walk-on player using like a rental gun. He's like, I need a case of paint. I'm like,
Which is
well,
crazy.
here you go.
Why hearing the story, you don't know why tournament or field owners want tournament players. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. And so then I sold it to some walk-on guy, and then he went around and shot some people, and then he broke it in his gun and brought it back to Eric. Was like, hey, this stuff's like this paint's like broken. It's, you know, it was like in a VM68, you know. So it was just dripping out of it, and Eric's like, where did you get this? He's like, I bought it out of the thing, you know,
From that guy
from
over
that
there.
kid over there, you know. Right.
Yep. No, that's the best.
But that paint was
remember you'd shoot people.
amazing, man. I mean,
yeah.
and it still is. So, anyways, you know, I didn't know that was the story of it, and now I understand why the paint is so good because you know you guys specialize in it, you know. And if
I
anybody
think
is a
that's-
unique player, I would just recommend spending the $100 or whatever it is to get the top of the line paint and use it at the big games, Decay of Nations, whatever it is you're playing in, because it will make the difference, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that's interesting too is that paint, like Marbleizer specifically, is the first paint that was made for competitive paintball. Like, if you go back before Marbleizer existed, everybody just shot what we would call premium or pro ball,
Big ball,
right? Which was
big
what
ball.
which got sold to all the paintball fields. It was just a field paint, and they would pick a specific color, usually like a hot pink or whatever it was, for a tournament, and just take it. And Marbleizer was the first time they said, okay, we can make a paintball that does all these things, and you know they made what we called Bright Glow. That was that yellow,
What
which
is it
turned
called?
everybody so they looked like they were. It was called Bright Glow Marbleizer. That was the color. Made everybody turn jaundice.
That was so good, dude.
That was the stuff.
The closest one I had to use that was Anarchy. Remember that?
Yeah. I do remember. I don't remember the film.
Well, we'll see. We made some adjustments. Well, we'll see how you guys like it for Chicago. But I think we sent you some sample stuff to shoot,
I've been shooting it.
a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. It's good.
But we made some updates to get it a lot closer to that. We'll see what happens.
I think you sent us some of that too for our practice with AC.
Uh-huh.
It shot really, really good.
Okay, well, here's a big
Yeah.
question. So I know that
Uh-oh.
you guys always have, and paintball has always sponsored the pros to a high level where the pros don't pay for paint, right? And like they get carte blanche and they get to go in there and pick their lots, and you know, it's we're very privileged, right? How much do you think that translates to the regular consumer? Or is it just, you know, like, is it almost like you guys are doing it just to keep it alive and keep it going? Or does it make a big difference when you're like, okay, hey, Timmy, who's a one-time unique player, Dynasty uses this, you know, does it actually translate, you know? And is it even worth it to, like, you know, have such a big budget for the pros and for the leagues, you know? Or is it just a thing to keep it alive?
So it's a complicated question. So does it translate to those beginner, like, one-time players? No, not directly to them. I think where it does make its way there in a different way is by showing we can make, you know, a paintball that can do these things, right, for a competitive level, meaning we can make a very high-end paint that can break consistently, that can do all these things and shoot very straight, right, that these guys who are ultra picky want, okay? I think that gives us the credibility to go to paintball field owners too, you know, like we said, most were paintball players, to say, look, if these guys are willing to use this type of paintball, and we can make, let's just call it a dumbed down version of this that can do, you know, maybe not to the same level as this other paint, but it can, and for us, the biggest thing is it can break consistently and fly straight, right? Maybe not as straight as what you guys get to the distance. I would argue it still flies straight, just maybe not at 150 yards, right? That those two things, and say, okay, if you're willing to bring this paint in and use this paint, and it does have a cost that's more than, you know, what other people charge, that your players will have a better time, right? And we can prove that out because we can make this, we can deliver this, and we can do this all very consistently, not in one batch, right? Not, you know, 200 cases, but in millions of cases. That I think that's maybe where it ties back, and that those field owners are going, okay, you know, that makes sense. I'm willing to, you know, pay a little bit more for your paint because it's going to be more consistent, and obviously you have to do all that. But that's where it does tie through, and I think, you know, the next tie back is really to the leagues, you know, the smaller leagues, the less, you know, not regional leagues, not national leagues per se, and then, you know, those players who are a bit more hooked, right, to when they see that at Decay and Nations or Ion or, you know, the Black Hawk Down game, that, you know, oh man, they're shooting Marbleizer, or oh man, they have 4-star or 5-star, whatever it is. They're like, okay, that's high quality, and it's going to be worth my $100 or $200 to go play that game, because, you know, it's not cheap, obviously, to go do some of these things, but they're going to give me a good quality product. And I think that's probably where it has more stickiness than that beginner person. You know, the beginner person doesn't know either way. I would argue that the more, if every field used better paint across the board, right, and none of us made lower end paint, you know what I mean, like recycled paint or the rest, whatever you want to call it.
Wouldn't that be something? I guarantee you the sport would be at such a higher level if we could just get rid of, there was like some sort of like decree, no one can sell a paintball box under $20.
Yeah, and you know, the hard part is,
Okay, well, what about this? So, okay, like, obviously, you know, again, you've been doing this for a long time, I've been doing this for a long time, and I really feel like there was this moment in time where there was so much innovation in the sport. And I see that you guys are still innovating the ball, which is something that, like, actually I'm grateful for in this conversation, because I never even really thought about it, to be honest, you know? You know, like, you know, there's such a science in it, and so, like, I'm grateful to know that that's kind of what you guys are doing. But, like, you know, obviously JT goggles are still, like, the most popular goggles now, right? And then now there's, like, this new, you know, to building the goggle, right, which is a new thing, kind of. I mean, I guess it was before, but now it's like a really big thing. It's kind of like pimp my ride for my goggles, you know? And and so it's like, you know, the question I'm asking is, how much more innovative can you be with these brands? Or are we just riding out the vintage look and the old styles because they work and they're so good? Or is there still innovation in all this tech? And is Core moving in the direction of that? Because I feel like a lot of brands aren't innovative anymore and haven't been for a couple years, you know? I mean, you know, not to say any names, but there's goggles that I wore, you know, 10, 20 years ago that are still the number one selling goggles for a lot of other brands, you know? And of course,
Right.
the
Still
JT
beat out everybody, yeah.
is the goggle, you know, and has been
Timeless, yeah.
It's timeless, but is there innovation? Like, and are you guys innovating still? And is there energy going towards changing the sport and the tech that goes along with it?
So are we still innovating? We think so. We're trying. Obviously, it's unfortunately, I think what most people don't realize is, I would argue, outside of us, Dye, and Eclipse, yeah, and Lux, I think you can throw them in the mix. Nobody makes their own product, right? Most people either just knock something else off or rebox something that's already been made, right? And I think that's pretty much across the board. And so developing new products is hard. It takes time, unfortunately. It takes a lot of money. And, you know, specifically to your question, we've been working on, and we had hoped to launch, honestly, at the end of this year, and even to a certain degree last year, which didn't happen, a new, you know, JT, we'll call it frame, that, you know, you can build off of, that uses all the old stuff, any of the old variations, and then has, you know, some of the new features that you'd want. We're still in that process. You know, goggles are probably harder to do than most things, just because you have to pass ASTM standards, right? And the ASTM testing, I think most people would say, oh, it's not that bad, or it's just this or that. To do it right so that you're covered from an insurance standpoint, liability wise, and that, you know, you have safety built in is complex, to say the least. And we continue to go through iterations there. But I would say, knock on wood, we got a couple of things coming out on the JT side for goggle wise that, you know, I hope will hit at the end of this next year, just to give us ourselves some leeway, if not sooner. That will, you know, bring that platform up to the 21st century, I would say, and not left, like you guys said, right? The same goggle we've been making since the late 90s, really, to a certain degree. So that will help. You know, we just, this year, or the last year and a half, we've gone through very painful launch of our loader, you know, the Triad, and going through that with help from, you know, really everybody on this podcast that has helped us refine the product, develop the product. And I think one of the interesting things, I thought about this more, is as we've developed product, you know, in the old days, we played every weekend, right? From a practice standpoint. So to make a new product, you always had, you know, test dummies that were out there playing that could give you real feedback. You know, I don't know now, but my guess is when you really listen to people, some of you guys, I think, probably play more than just once, you know, one time during the layout. But a lot of guys, they only play during the layout where they're together as a group. So making a product, getting it out in the field and really testing it is a lot more complicated, because just people aren't getting the same amount of spins, right? Like, you're not going out there every weekend and using something. So you have this fragmented feedback loop that comes back. It's like, hey, here's a loader, use it. And, you know, maybe you play once and you go, okay, well, these are the things I saw. And you send that information back, right? And then you're like, okay, well, did you really play? Nah, I just kind of shot it. Whatever it was. And then you're like, okay, well, use it at your first practice. And, you know, it's your only practice, really, right? On the layout or whatever you guys are doing. So you're like, well, I need to get the most out of that practice day. I can't really be messing around with a new product that may or may not work, that you want feedback. That's not where my headspace is at. And that was really made it hard for us specifically, you know, to get new product out that I think we would say is not, you know, doesn't have to go through more development. And I do think that's a challenge for most. I think, you know, people like Planet, you know, Leds and those guys, they play a lot, so they're always at a field, so they get their own firsthand knowledge. For us, you know, we're not, a lot of our places where we are in business are actually around paintball fields, so we can't even go play and test ourselves. We rely on others. and that has made it more complicated for sure to develop new product and keep going. And I do think, kind of to your point, like the way the game is set now, it probably makes it harder to innovate in certain areas, right? Because I would argue that a lot of at least on the marker or gun side, the innovation came because we went from pump guns to semi-automatic guns, right? Then compressed air, then you had to get faster, then electronic guns, then all these things. And then at some point, we retarded the ability to grow, slowed it because we just said all the guns are full auto now, right? That's how you guys all play. Ramping, whatever you want to call it. Still squeeze the trigger so many times and you go like this. So no one has to make the gun easy to shoot fast. No one has to think through all those things anymore. That really makes you want to make the gun more dynamic, right? And I
feel like
think
the guns have reached a certain level of...
Yeah, they plateaued a little bit.
The guns are just so good now. Everybody's gun is very competitive, Whereas back in the day, it was you had an autococker, and then the Angel came out, and it was like you had to use an Angel just because it would make you a better player, you know?
Me, I didn't use one of those dumb guns.
I saw you use this. Oh no, Billy Bruno had the silver one. You didn't have it, huh?
Yeah, no, I used my autococker to the bitter end.
That's right. Bruno had the silver Angel.
Yeah,
but I mean,
I would get one and play with a group around. Yeah,
I
think.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think it goes back though that the game we play is paintball, so everything spins around the paintball. But then the next thing everything spins around is the gun, right? So if the gun has plateaued to a degree because it can't do much more, and you've kind of locked it into what it can do, right? At 12 balls a second, that's what it's going to do, right? And I'm just using that at your end, 12.5, whatever it is. Then everything kind of spins around that, which hampers everything else. Because why do you need to make a loader? Well, the Triad can feed up to 12.5, at least according to feedback from guys like you and some of the other guys who've helped, faster than other loaders. But then it stops. Can it shoot on a gun that shoots 20 balls a second? Absolutely. But why does it need to do that, right? Like everything spins around that one number now because that's kind of the standard, And so why go out of your way to make things that are more than that, have more features or whatever else you're going to do, if that is where you're capped, right? And I think that is part of it. I'm not saying it's the only part, but I would say, things like the what is it, the EMAC, right? That gun shoots great, and now there's people doing things to make sure you can use that gun, and other features from a loader standpoint, air systems, regs, whatever else to help make that gun better, right? And or by default, that gun will perform better because of some of the things that are going on with that. I think capping those things, or just setting to where they're full auto. Again, I realize it's ramping, but it's still at some point it's full auto, right? That has kind of to a certain degree capped the technology that you're going to get out of anything. Say putting the loader in the gun or the air system in the gun, and then you have to do physics wise that gets very complicated. You have to change a lot around the gun. I mean, we have a gun that the loader's in the back, right? It's called the Defender. It's built into the gun. There's no loader that sits on top.
That should be your top. That should be your top selling, and it's got like the prophecy internals in the butt stock area. Dude, that's a great design.
Yeah, and
aside from if you break paint in there, that's a bit of a.
Okay,
right,
so
but the hardest thing is because it's not the way we're used to shooting, right? So people don't want to play with it. They're like, well, I never want a loader on top of my gun because it gets shot. Well, it's behind it. Well, I can't put my head like this. So, paintball players, we're unique cats. I remember when they told us way back when that we had to wear ear protection, right? This is before you had to wear face protection. You had to wear ear protection first. And we were like, it's going to ruin the game.
I just want to sit.
It's over. No one's going to want to play. She can't hear. And then we had to wear a face mask. And it was like, it's going to ruin the game. It's just.
I just retired when they had to wear a chin strap because I just thought it was so pussy.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought about face mask and ear protection.
Yeah, I know.
I think you got away with not wearing a chin strap at the tournament, and your mask rolled up, which I don't know how they let you do that.
Yeah, he was on to do whatever he wants.
But okay, Billy, do you guys make the paintballs, the pepper spray paintballs?
No.
So what
No,
about?
That's a totally different process.
That's a totally different process. Could you make a chalk paintball? Could you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could that be something that could be something in the future? Yes. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it hits you and just.
Yeah.
You'd have to invent chalkboard clothing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Innovative.
Yeah, I think the holy grail for paintball is to encapsulate water, right? The minute we can figure out how to make a fill more based on water than PEG, polyethylene glycose, is I would argue the holy grail from a bunch of different standpoints. Easier
I've
to
seen
clean,
some of
easier
them.
to do.
I've seen some of those plastic paintballs.
Yeah, the key is to not make it plastic though.
Oh, really?
Right, and that's what you can't do. Yeah,
So what
gelatin.
about-
So go ahead.
So what about like the gel blaster or the jelly blaster ball, right? That's like and it
Orbeez.
absorbs paint or it absorbs water
Yep.
and then it gets bigger. Could you
Yep.
do that in a 68 caliber? Or 62
Not
caliber?
in hold real.
It wouldn't-
No,
it
not in
wouldn't
real
have too much
hold
variance.
real form.
And it would
Yeah.
explode
Yeah,
when you
too
shot
much.
it.
Too big.
Okay, but are you guys always continuously in the paint world innovating, looking for that, that holy grail like you were just talking about with the water? Is that something that's being also done?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's like,
Yep.
I don't know, kind of something we were talking about today too. The Tesla, how it's gotten like so much cheaper, or TVs just, with paint, like what's the next step in making it the ball more inexpensive to make.
Yeah, water is really the only thing left. If we can continue to use gel, right, outside of plastic, maybe you can get away with some other things. There's definitely different technology out there now that you could potentially use for the shell. But again, going back to, we need the shell to hit and break consistently and not hurt. And I know you guys
Hopefully
saw some of the
not
plastic
absorb
balls.
water is essentially what you're trying to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you ever been shot by, like I remember getting shot by one of those water paintballs just to see, and it didn't necessarily hurt so much because it didn't have any weight behind it, which is another problem that you have with water. But when I looked, it cut me to pieces because that plastic, still flying at 300 feet per second, 150 miles an hour, it's going to do something, right? Plastic's not soft, and it cut me up a decent amount, but it didn't hurt per se because there wasn't a lot of weight. But I think by default, that's what it is. So what you want to be able to do is use gelatin, which we know when you make it right will break, right, and doesn't necessarily hurt. Especially at distance, if the paint's good, and then have it hold water, and that is the hardest thing because gelatin either absorbs water or water wants to escape it. That's what's always happening in a paintball, right? From when it's made and dried, it is changing consistently. I would argue a paintball is probably 25% different from when it's dried and put in a box to when you guys open it and start playing with it, and then stop playing your one match. And that's just water going in and water going out. And that is the hard trick.
You talked a lot about the research, the R&D, and kind of just how a better quality paintball, is feasibly is better for a consumer. I think Junior chimed in also that Extreme exclusively uses the Dynasty paintball for pretty much all walk-ons and rental gear. Have you guys done any data collection or market research on different qualities of paint and how it's consumed by just an average player, just the average recreational player, the one-time player? I don't know, a brown or a white colored white fill crap 1-star ball versus a brightly colored yellow, green, blue, something that they can see that shoots straight or has a more visible fill. Have you guys done any data in there to see that if there's a correlation between the color of the ball, the quality of the ball, and how much a player consumes on average, and use that to sell and push more higher end product?
I would say not in a specific use case as the way you kind of spelled it out. I think our conversation really spins around hey, here's the top paintball fields, right? And here's the paint they use, and here's why they use it, which tends to be everything you just said, right? A higher quality paintball, brighter colors. I think everyone has kind of spun around yellow and white fills just because it's easier to clean from a feel standpoint, but brighter yellows, white, I don't think it can be brighter or not brighter, but something that stands out. And that is really how we've done it. I don't think just us looking at it per se, because again, we don't necessarily have that, direct connection to players to ask.
Well, you have fields.
Right, we have fields and we ask, but I would tell you, like talking to Junior, ask Junior how many of his field owners can tell you how many players they had, right? How many paintballs they shot, and how when it rained they were impacted year over year, and the dollars per head they made. Right, like those are all, I would argue, fundamental questions that every field owner should be able to answer, and I'm going to tell you, most people go, I don't know. Right, so it's a little bit complicated, and that's that's not necessarily their fault, right? Because they've just not seen the value in doing that, because they always grew or they always had customers, and they're just doing what they feel is right for their business. So from an analytical standpoint, we don't have anything outside of us talking to field owners like Junior, Anthony from Boston, Gio, Paul at Skirmish, all the big guys, Alex, and what they use, and then trying to convince them in some cases to use a better paintball, and then seeing what the results are. And I would say, I think, from a litmus test standpoint, I'm not sure there's a good paintball field, that's what I'll call it, right, that has good repeat business, that's run well, that doesn't use a higher quality paint across the board. Right. And I would make that argument that's there, to the level or the degrees. I think maybe there's some room for interpretation there, but I think Anthony uses Marbleizer, right? Like, he doesn't mess around. Junior uses Dynasty. Most of our fields we push into, at the worst case, they really want to be frugal and they're trying to be price conscious. We'll do some kind of upgraded 2-star with what we would call an advantage formula, so it breaks better consistently, right? Maybe the fill's not as bright or something along those lines, but we do everything to make sure that even our low end paint is going to break the white ray, because that's what we would argue is probably most important overall. But we push everybody to be sort of minimally 2-star, 3-star or better,
right?
And we have, I think, a good majority of fields that either what we would say uses premium, some kind of custom blend, which is like premium, 3-star or better on most of their fields. And almost all events are 4 or 5-star or Evil or Marbleizer. So I think, directly back, there is a correlation, better paint, better experience. Do we have hard base numbers that here's exactly what it is? No.
Yeah. We have a similar we have similar metrics too. When you use a Field 1 Force, historically more teams win in the professional division using a Field 1 Force as well. I think you guys did a market research thing. Alex was telling me, if you wear a headband, Hormesis headband, you win more often than if you wear an off-brand headband. Just using from what's been happening out there in the world. So yeah, that's.
I feel like that might be lower though, because more people wear Hormesis, and only one team can get first place.
Well,
in the pros.
Yeah, but that's more teams getting first place. No, it's just that's more teams getting first place though. Still.
Yeah.
So it's data driven.
So. Yeah, we get the same thing for paint at the events where we tout, look, we win every event, or up until the last one, our paint has won every division. Right. And then, obviously the Russians did well and won, I guess a 2-for-1, however you want to look at that. And everybody's like, oh, everyone else, how good your paint now? And it's like, well, if you look, we won every other division that was there. And, oh, by the way, our 2 teams were in the finals as well, and they just didn't win.
Yeah, so, I noticed this new trend that occurred in the last 3 years when Dynasty was winning a lot. Like, other advertisers couldn't advertise pretty much anymore. So they're like, our team took third place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can, but like, you're supposed to just only it's only if you win.
Exactly.
They're like,
No, for
hey,
sure.
we took
And,
14th.
Yeah. Exactly.
We were there.
And back to the thing before, but we average probably 55% of the teams use our paint at the NXLs. And yet, again, outside the last event, we win for the last 3 years every division.
Mm-hmm.
And the last event, I would make the argument, if you guys as Dynasty don't play Aftershock, right, and you butted up against the Russians in the semis, you probably beat the Russians. And then I think Aftershock still beats you guys if they make it, right? So whoever, I think they were going to beat anybody. I think you guys are more savvy.
I feel like you're a little biased also. Just there's something with Aftershock.
It's hard to say.
It's hard to say
I
on
can't
that one.
put
I
my
think-
finger on it.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it would have been
But
a
to be
different
clear,
time of day, and the lead there'd be something when the wind was blowing differently. They got one in on us, but it wasn't. They like just shellacked us.
No, but I believe they would have beat you. But I believe you would have beat the Russians, and I don't think they could beat the Russians. But I believe they were going to beat you. Regardless.
Any day, any time.
Well, they did beat you.
No.
They did beat us.
So,
Yeah.
give him some credit there.
I know.
Yeah,
but
giving him a hard
I'm
time.
not saying. Yeah, I'm
Usually,
saying
statistically done by
Yeah.
data, Dynasty beats them and then goes on to the next one and then usually beats them also.
Yeah.
So it's just
correct.
We could figure
That
out
weekend,
saying-
that event, that weekend, they had us.
Nice.
Yeah,
Those are cool.
Yeah, I think they could have beat almost anybody save the Russians. And I just think that the way the Russians played and adjusted put them at a disadvantage, right? Because they needed a bit of chaos to win that game, and the Russians shut down the chaos and created chaos. And you guys can react better to that, right? Like you could stop chaos, slow everything down, and then we recoup better. I mean, like I said, you would have beat. I feel you were more suited to beat the Russians. I think during that event, they were more suited on that field and the way they were playing to beat you guys. Right? It was just unfortunate that you guys met in the semis, which I do feel is, my conspiracy theory in paintball is that because the two owner group that are there are sponsored by the evil doers that are not us. And they're only evil doers because they're not us. They make sure that our teams line up to get out, to give their guys the best chance to make it to the finals. But obviously that's all nonsense. But
I mean, the thing is let's have this conversation. Is there any evildoers in paintball, or is it all just conspiracy? Yes. There is.
Yeah, for sure. And to me, I give you my version of an evildoer is someone who grifts off paintball to just make money, who really doesn't give a shit what happens to it. That's my evildoer for paintball. So I do believe there are more than a few.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. But your company is not one of those.
Nope.
Okay, I like that.
I would argue we're not.
I love that.
People are knocking off all of their stuff to make.
I mean,
stuff,
look, I never thought I'd be in the industry and own a company. And I mean, I have a rinky-dink headband company, so it's not like we're not making loaders or goggles or anything like that. But I mean, I love it because I love paintball. I love the growth of the sport. I love to put back into it. I feel like we're doing something fresh and new as much as possible to give back. And I'm kind of like, why doesn't everybody else do this? And I'm not saying that you don't, Billy, and your brands don't, because I do hear you now when you say this, and I feel it. But there's a lot of people who it just goes into their pocket, and it's like, why don't we all just continuously recycle into this? Because if you ask me, that's what makes a healthy community, and that's what makes a healthy industry, And if we're all actually supporting each other, and we're all actually helping each other, we're all pushing each other into the best ways, that's just like the same dynamic as being on a paintball team. Then you have successful paintball players and successful players,
Yeah, I think you're right. This is the one industry, I shouldn't say one, but I think unique in the fact that we self-fund everything we do, right? Like paintball pays for all these events, pays for all this, outside of Hertz just coming in recently, right? we've never really had a lot of outside sponsorship to help pay for all this stuff. So we pay for all of it, whether that's the player or the manufacturers. And then none of the manufacturers really work together in any way, shape, or form consistently, because they're all just trying to take from the other rather than grow first. And I think if you look at other industries, you know, and again, I don't know what the right structure is, but, you know, they have all these, you know, restaurants have restaurant coalitions or whatever they're called, and all the restaurant owners get together and they just talk about how to, you know, market people, you know, for lack of a better way, people eating out, right? They don't care that there's a restaurant down the road per se, right? They just want more people to eat out or want to go eat, you know, eat at a restaurant, and then they just feel they will win. And it goes back to, I think, marketing and the rest. We focus on some of the wrong things. You know, if every field that works in the area, and this is some of the things we're trying to do in Dallas, markets, right? The manufacturer helps market in that area. All the fields market in that area just to play paintball, right? Not just yourself, not just O's paintball field or whoever's paintball field, Greenspan's, right? But it's those things plus paintball in general. And then the manufacturer helps paintball in general. It's just the more dollars, the more people that see paintball, the more chances we have to get people to play paintball, and the more chances we have to, you know, keep those people playing. And that is something we do not do, right? And we haven't done it well, and most field owners don't want to work with other field owners.
Field owners do not like to share their pie.
Yeah. I remember
Yeah,
I remember back in the day, you know, there'd be that guy that would be selling those paintball coupons. Remember? And like all the paintball fields were together on that.
Yeah.
And then the guy would sell them.
Yep.
And then you'd buy it, and then you could go to the paintball field, any of the paintball fields, and get 20% off or 50% off.
Yeah, it's like free entry, and you know, and then you have to upgrade the gun.
Yeah,
I remember being at high school, and a guy came to me at my high school and was like, "Do you want to play paintball?" I'm like, "I play paintball already."
But yeah, I don't think there's a lot of working together, and it does go back, and this is where I would say, you know, the hard part about why to another degree, I don't think people necessarily, field owners always like tournament guys is you have this group of guys who come consistently, right? 20 guys that play tournaments, and they pay their whatever amount to come play. And then a field will open down the street and say, well, I'll just charge you $5 less to come play here. And even though this guy's built all this stuff for you or done all these things, those 20 guys go, well, it's $5 less. And then they go, right? And then so you're sitting there going, well, screw you guys, for $5 you leave. We've done all these things. You know, there's like no conversation, which is part of it, because then what does that field owner do? He goes, okay, well, I'll charge you $5 less for paint. And then you come back. And then the team just keeps kind of bouncing back and forth, and not always, right? I'm not saying this is every team, but this definitely does happen, because as we've started to do more in Texas, that is the number one thing everybody talks about. It's like, well, people are just going to do this or steal this, or everybody's just trying to do this. And you hear a lot of people say, well, you know, I want to grow paintball, but we need to make sure that these players, well, how come they don't come over here and play? Well, that's not growing, dude. That's just moving one group of dudes over to another group, right? If you want to grow, we've got to pull new people out or bring new people in. And it's a mentality thing. And again, that to me goes back to everybody being paintball people first, more so than business people, right? Because I would argue business people don't necessarily think about some of that, right? They're thinking about, how do we get more people, and how do I provide the best experience? And it goes best experience and then get more people, right? And then realizing that, yes, some of those people are going to go try another place, but and maybe they stay there because they like it. Maybe they have different features than I have. And then it's my job to reach out and go, hey, Oliver, why, I haven't seen you here. Where have you been? Right? However you market, email, call, depending where you're at. And he goes, well, I've been playing over here at, Joe Smuckatelli's paintball field, and he's got a castle, and he's got this, and he's got new rental equipment, he's got new goggles. And you're like, okay, you look around, you go, oh, all my stuff's old. Maybe I need to update, right? Those are all things to help you, get better. And then, and I do think on the team side, it goes back to like we talked about for the tournaments. Are you really going to win shooting paint that costs you 10, 15, 20 bucks, whatever the number is? Probably not. Right. But do they do it after they spent probably $4,000 a person to get there? Yep. Because they just don't think through the whole process, and I think that's you know, that's the other end of the spectrum, right? Like everybody's got to think through what they want, you know, in the food chain. And yes, I want to play paintball, and yes, I want to play it a lot, but I want a place to play that's awesome, that likes me, that wants me there, right? That is excited when I come back because I won or something else. And am I going to really get that by jumping back and forth to different paintball fields to save $5? The answer is probably no, right? You just become a dollar, right? Is just like everything else, and you don't want to be that, right?
Yeah, you know, it's so hard to convince people or business owners, paintball people in general, and just like a lot of people, you know, if they can see the writings on the wall, and you know, I don't really want to upgrade this because they don't. A lot of people don't care about the player experience, and those are the types of player or people who are going to be wary about letting or, you know, encouraging people to go try out other fields around the area. Whereas if they saw it as competition can breed a just you can create something better, you know, there's no critical thinking in that. You can absolutely build upon what you have. If you see that other people are offering something a little bit better, it'll make you want to work a little harder to make your product a little bit better. But people see working harder as something like it's just complacency. Just ends up just straight up complacency. And that's a problem. But that's a problem in any industry. That's a problem across the board. And that's also why there's no innovation sometimes, because it's easier to rip things off than it is to design or build or take all this time to create something new. And if I have players that are playing at my place and they're loyal to me, and there's a tournament down the road, it makes sense to all of us to be like, yes, go play in that tournament. Yes, let's schedule a practice over there. Let's get some of them over to our place. But a lot of people are like, ooh, what if you like it over there a little bit more? And then I got to work harder to retain you, and I'm kind of comfortable how I am. And I just got, you know, just enough of my pie. I don't want to share it. I will take more pie, but I'm not going to share any of mine. And that's just it's a very, you know, just sickening mindset that it is what it is in business. And that's also why people will say, you know what, I don't care about a brightly colored ball. What's the cheapest paint you got? Send me that. And those are also probably the people who end up skipping out on their bills also.
They definitely used to.
Luckily,
we don't have that problem so much anymore.
Yeah, and then, you know, player retention is important. And I think what we talked about here is just, it's going to be great. It'd be great if you had a tournament field, if there's a way for you to see visually the trajectory of where you could be. Obviously, it's a big expense, and there's got to be something a little bit better, and maybe something we can work together on is providing some guidelines and ways to create that symbiotic relationship between a tournament player, a professional player, and your park, and why and how we can benefit each other mutually.
I don't know if you guys know what I'm working on, but I mean, I'd love to talk to you further about this, Billy, because it's more in depth. But you know, I do feel like the elite one-on-one stuff is the perfect solution to a lot of these questions that we have. And
Darren's all in it. You know, Darren's all in it.
Darren's my boy, and I will say that any field, and especially if you're opening a field in Texas, just build an elite one-on-one field. Learn how to run the Joust. There's an application that you can score on, and it's all handheld in your pocket. And it's just that thing like we were speaking about earlier when you say, oh, okay, I'm a walk-on player, and what is that? And I want to do that. And it's affordable, it's easy, it's digestible, it's comprehensible. Parents can understand it. And then as we grow and we get, you know, more professional, you know, we're going to be paying players money to win. And, you know, I think that's going to be that allure to keep the tournament thing at a high level running and keep that stream of younger players to climb the ladder to something that's, you know, that's actually feasible. Because turning pro and playing on a pro team is almost just like at other pro sports. It's pretty difficult, you know. But this one, in a sense, is even more because there's no real. You don't go from, you know, high school to college to AAA to pros. There's none of that. It's like I just show up for enough time that hopefully I can get on a pro team. Maybe do I know somebody? You know, how do I do it? So, anyways, I'd love to have that conversation with you further one day.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely interested.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Billy. I appreciate you coming on. I know you had your schedule was full, was pretty stacked today, and you don't do a lot of these things, and you packed in 2 in one day. So make sure
insightful information.
Yeah, make sure everybody who's watching this go check out the PTG one that Billy did earlier this afternoon, I think.
This morning I was surprised. It was early for them.
Yeah, they heard that I had you coming on today, so they had to schedule you first thing in the morning and post it up before you got out and spilled any of the beans here.
The juice.
The juice.
Yep.
Yeah. No juice. But I appreciate you coming on. You know, I think obviously not a lot of people, maybe a lot of people who are watching this know, but like, you know, you are pretty much at the top. I would say pretty much the very top of the paintball hierarchy here, and you've been there for a long time, and obviously you have a ton of knowledge and data, and not all the answers, but you've got a lot of solutions cooking, and it's important that, you know, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that people who are listening to this see that you actually care about paintball. You play paintball still. You played paintball for decades before the beginning.
Us.
Yeah, before us. And before the beginning and the transition from the woods to you've played on every format, and that's, I think, something very special. But on top of that, it's really important that we have people that are in positions of power in the league who actually give a shit, and still have passion for the sport, because that passion is what a lot of field operators, Junior, Anthony, even Gio to a certain extent, because Gio loves tournament paintball. Believe it or not, and it's important that we have these types of guys in the industry to make sure that we have a place to play, and that Tim Schmagillicuddy, or what was his name, that Schmuckzilla can go out there and he can get an ad for a birthday party online, and he goes to his birthday party and he actually looks over and he can see that there's a tournament park, and he goes, I want to do that. Whether it's the 1-on-1, it's a 5-on-5, it's a 10-man ICPL, whatever it is, there needs to be that vision of a trajectory of somewhere he can go. Because a lot of us who play paintball are somewhat of outcasts, and a lot of us aren't into the mainstream types of sports, and that's what is the allure of paintball. And so when that person plays for the very first time, and they're like, this was amazing, but then they look over and the person's like, all right, give me your rental gear back and kick rocks. Like, that's not the field that we want them to go to. So, you know, I think, again, thank you for continuing to fight the good fight.
I appreciate it, and thanks for all the support throughout. Good to see you back, floating around.
He's out of here tomorrow.
Thanks, Billy.
Yeah,
I've been in America for a month, so you know.
Yeah. Totally domesticated, and Spicka, always nice to see you, and good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll see if you guys, let's make it to the what's the round right before the finals?
Semis
now?
Semis.
All right. We'll get you a competitive match in the semis. We'll see if you guys can pull it out.
Yeah.
But
if you're playing Shock, you're going down.
Yes,
that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
We hope that you make it to the next round and then don't play Shock.
Yes. The goal is always to play Shock.
How does it feel to see Shock out there in a new iteration with new, life? Because I think that's got to be pretty cool for you, right?
No, it's awesome. It's definitely cool. And the fact that, Todd is doing it, and that, Rennick signed off, and that, some of those guys, a lot of those guys that are there, like Bortle, Tom, and those guys all help. And that, a lot of those kids, especially Todd Squad, at least understand what they're a part of. Because I think there were whole generations of people who played on Aftershock. Nick's there again, and they were like, "Oh, we played on Aftershock," and I just stare at them like, "What? Who? When?" And because when I think about it, it's when I play, right? So I forget that there was whatever it was 10 years after I stopped playing where it existed before it, it took its hiatus. That there was a lot of people who played there, and I'm sure did a great job. But it's definitely good to see those guys back competing at a high level, and definitely the game's different than even at the end when we stopped playing. I think everyone's a lot nicer to each other in some ways, right? That you guys are all friendly everywhere, where that's not the way it used to be. to say the least, right?
I mean,
You always-
compared to where you guys were up here, everybody like a rattlesnake is nicer to a gopher than you guys were to anybody. So I mean,
yeah, for sure. But I think you see it and you listen to them talk. They have some, they have enough niceness to the way you guys all are, but they also have that edge where you could see like, oh, I'm pretty sure if I left this dude alone with these guys in a dark alley and said, if they don't make it out in any way, shape, or form, you're guaranteed to win. That most people aren't making it out of that alleyway. And I think if I said that to most teams, people are like, well, what does that mean? What do I got to do? Do I really got to do that? Is that really what you mean? Like, yeah, that's what we mean. It's everything to win when you're here. And I think they have that mentality. I'm not sure everybody else does.
I agree. I mean, when I close my eyes and I think of Aftershock, I think of that photo of you guys in the JT at Renix Field, all looking over your shoulder, and it's like you, Robo, Noblet, Danny, and everybody, Dino, and everybody's like tough and like, but like
scary,
also
man.
like so cool, And I don't know if you saw this, but we did a Hormesis line for you guys. And I made some with the old Aftershock logo, and
Really? Awesome.
Yeah, and there's a few that really I feel like embody that time, and there's still some actually available. I'm gonna get you one because I feel like it's just Todd. I don't think Todd and those guys. I don't think the new guys even understood it.
No,
because
we were crazy.
They weren't. Well, no, they weren't there. So, but like the vibe of the band is like that photo where you guys are all like
awesome.
looking over, and it's kind of got that green and that brown of the JT jerseys you guys are wearing, and to me that's Aftershock, and everybody's just wearing goggles, It's like
no, that's yes.
they're all wearing Dynasty goggles.
How you play?
Awesome. Well, I'll let you go.
All right,
boys.
We're gonna give some stuff away, and thank you very much, Billy.
Appreciate it.
yeah, thanks.
I appreciate
Billy.
it, guys.
Nice to
Thank
catch
you.
up.
I'll see you guys in Chicago.
All right, see you in a week.
Not me.
Cheers. Safe travels, bud.
All right, later.
All right, guys. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Well, that was a good one.
That was
Dude. If you didn't know, now you know.
Now you know.
Now you know. Now you know. I think that was I think between the 2.5 hour marathon here and the probably 2+ hours on PTG.
No, he only got 1 hour over there.
So he did.
I probably could have asked him like another hour and a half.
Yeah,
I know. He absolutely, without a doubt.
Because he is such an icon in the sport, and I don't even know.
And we didn't even
people-
touch.
the
We didn't even
industry.
we didn't even get to touch that.
No,
You know,
no,
that was like
I don't even think
unfortunate.
people know even who he really is.
Yeah,
you
where
know?
he's at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
That's
yeah.
kind of why I
know-
wanted to touch that in that little bit.
I mean,
and-
he's if there is like real icons, like what you're saying, and there are. He's definitely one of them, and he's still here doing it. Like
Yeah.
that's impressive.
That's
Because
impressive.
a lot of those icons are gone.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of what I touched on there is that not only is he still in it, but he gives a shit because
good
he's
to know.
been here since the beginning.
No, it's refreshing to learn those things, and to see those
And he
things.
doesn't need to be like in the spotlight and have everyone
No.
like just working, doing all the heavy lifting and kind of behind closed
And
doors.
I never,
too.
Put
and
in
I
his
never
dues,
knew
too.
that about the paint. That's like just that alone. Because I'm always a connoisseur. I'm a fan of things that are like I'm a connoisseur of quality things. And like that paint is the best because it's in that facility that's only made for that, under the supervision of that, for that, with the guys who care and know about that industry.
Sure.
Whereas the other stuff might be made in a pharmaceutical lab in, China. And when nobody's like, they've never even played paintball,
Right. Yeah, I truly do believe supporting companies and industries and people and players and whatever it might be that support the better causes and support like growing the sport. And I know that's such a cliche thing to say, but it is true. And you gotta, I think a lot of people do need to also realize like, and I think one of the questions I was going to answer is like a lot of the moving a large machine forward is very difficult. Like you guys are really nimble. It's like, hey, I'm going to do this one-on-one thing. Like,
We're nothing. Like that's what's
open,
also
make sure
cool
that,
about it.
Make sure the credit card's, paid. Like to get something moved at a, I mean, he named off 10 companies that were all iconic companies. I didn't even know they owned Kingman. I didn't even know Spider Kingman was still a thing around.
But I'd like to see them bring a lot of those things back. Also, that's the other thing that I could have spoken to them about because autocockers.
Dude, stay here and let's get him back on next week, and
Let's
you can
go.
just
Let's
wait,
go.
come on,
Stay for practice?
come back. Yeah, dude, stay. You just it's Oliver's birthday.
I can do whatever
also,
I want.
I know that's what I'm saying. You're nimble.
I'll be going to practice. I got a 1-bedroom. You can just stay there.
But their practice is in Texas. So
We're in Texas. Yeah, but you're staying here for your birthday. Don't worry about us in Texas. Hey, come. We'll do the show next week. We'll do a
and then the following week is
power
the
hour,
tournament.
and then we'll fly out to Chicago for the weekend.
It's a nice
You
city.
know, yeah. You've been there. You too like Chicago. I know how much you like
love hot
Chicago.
dogs.
You love hot dogs.
Sears
And
Tower.
you know,
The bean.
Yeah.
Remember the bean?
yeah, there's the bean. There's the bean. That's right.
Bean.
Yeah, there's the bean.
Just go just for the bean.
You should go just for the bean. Hey,
I'm
go
going
for the
for the
bean.
bean.
Stay for the paintball.
Bonus.
Bonus.
There's a river. It goes through the city.
There's a
Rib
river,
dog.
rib dog, dude. All right, speaking of rib dog, we gotta go. We gotta go see the boys. All right, everybody. Don't forget. Oh yeah, let me talk about some winners here. We're gonna give away the frames to these. We'll put those things back on your face. Matthew, Mega Support Status member Matthew is winning those things. Dan White is getting a $25 gift card. Oliver BFP Gear also wanted to know what has been your favorite win. What's your favorite win ever in the history of
Favorite
winning?
win. It had to be when I came back and we won.
Yeah, and
Let's
then you
go.
said, can you guys do this for me? I don't ever ask you guys for shit. Just give me this.
Hey, that
I
was
was
great
part of it
because we
with
were all
you.
part of it.
Yeah.
Limitless
you know?
PB and Real Square 1 winning some Gen X Global gear. Don't forget over there on that little corner, Gen X Global's got some pods. I think some of you guys scored them. And EP is a winner in Texas Menace. All right.
Well, I could take Texas Menace
Do you
this
can-
weekend because
You'll see them. All right. Well, let's get Texas Menace dialed in, and we'll get you guys going to bed.
Are you gonna win
East
these?
Coast.
Someone's gonna win it?
Not that one. Not that
I
one.
think it was the last
But we'll
one.
win something. They're gonna win
I'll
something.
give away this D's Nuts one.
Dude,
coming
D's
up
Nuts,
soon.
Texas Menace.
All right, yeah.
Mom, I'm on the Spicka Span.
Thanks, guys. Don't forget, like, subscribe, join the
subscribe.
channel.
Where's
What
the
you doing?
we'll push this one. Mom! Mom! I'm on the Spicka Span Show!
Turn it on. Did you see me?
Turn it on right now! It's only 2.5 hours long.